Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap, Disembodied Voice Edition. We are here in our Weekly Manga Recap satellite, streaming to you here on January the 29th of 2025. And how is that going for you, Quinn?
It's great because we are just disembodied voices right now. I don't have to worry about what I look like. I took off my pants, Nick. They're gone. I endeavor really to record every episode of Weekly Manga Recap without pants on, but sometimes, it's really a freeing and liberating moment when you can.
Absolutely.
What have you taken off since we're not on video now?
Mostly my dignity and self-respect, but that's also very rarely present whenever I stream something to the internet. So it's about normal.
Okay. So you removed your dignity and self-respect essentially as a result of us streaming.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I have to do it in order for us to stream to begin with. Like it can't. The two cannot occupy the same space.
Yeah, I guess so. That seems sad. You don't think we could be well-respected streamer people?
No.
Oh.
Us? No.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm sure it's possible for some people out there, but for you and I together, no.
Okay, fair. You don't think this show is full of integrity, Nick?
It's full of plenty of integrity, actually.
Oh, okay.
I would say it's full of too much integrity sometimes. Given the number of things that our audience will hold over our heads forever because we're like, no, I'm not letting this go. I'm holding to my convictions.
I'm still saying it would be a better idea if the bubble fruits had always been there. It could only be seen once you were a good enough chef, but whatever. You know what? You take the L's as you get them.
Or I would even just today or the day before, I had someone be like, "Hey Nick, remember when you were wrong about Ogata and Seikiju?" I was like, I wasn't, though. What are you talking about? Still holding on to this.
Nick does have that powerful ability to fervently will himself into being completely unaffected by reality. It's a powerful.
What do you mean reality? What is this?
He forgets that he had to give me a pizza because I won the pizza bet. He admitted he was wrong, but he's still being it didn't happen.
That wasn't part of it, but
okay. Well,
I'm just saying we had 6 chances for Seikiju and Ogata to end up together, or even for one of them to tell the other that they had feelings for them. I don't think that ever happened in the 6 chances we got, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Fair enough then, Nick. I suppose we'll just have to keep going on and seeing if we at some point run into another lesbian romance inside of a Susui story that we can debate upon whether or not it is explicit or just for funsies.
What are the chances of that happening?
Oh, I think very likely. I honestly, if you were to tell me right now that you were okay, to develop the love triangle, the situationship that these characters are on a little bit further, Flambe is romantically soup. She's I can't stand how hot the cat thief lady is or whatever. She's so, I'm going crazy for her or something like that. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? They needed a gimmick for everyone to have with each other or something like that. This is just fine, In
order to define a interplay between every single character involved.
Yes. And
gotcha. Okay.
And on that same note, Nick, of taking 2 female characters with maybe an affection, one would say, to each other, and firmly saying they are not romantically connected, they are just real good pals. Let's talk about the final chapter of Undead Unluck, number 239. Undead Unluck. Wait, no. I had to scroll in. This font's really hard to read.
It's called Deadluck.
Deadluck. There you go. Would have been silly otherwise.
Yep, there are no same-sex couples in Undead Unluck. Any illusions to the contrary were just that. Just
Uh-huh.
everyone was reading too much into everything.
Yeah. No,
Look,
guys,
look at all the hetero marriage going on. There was never any of it was ever going to happen. Come on,
yeah.
don't be ridiculous.
So we opened the chapter. It actually took me a little bit to figure out 100% who this was because some
Yeah.
time has passed. This is Julia, who is now like a fully grown woman, and she is
Hmm.
with a bunch of the other Undead Unluck women saying, "Hey, just to confirm, it is supposed to be today." And we cut over to Victor, who looks the same. Age didn't hit him whatsoever. And a couple of the other men from the series. And he says, "No doubt about it, August 1st, 2020, don't tell me." And they both got COVID. And that's the end of the series.
What a time for Andy to lose immortality.
Hey, he had the opportunity to take sickness off the table, and he didn't.
He did.
That's on him. I know.
What's the worst that could happen anyway?
If the series was more popular, you would definitely have supercuts of people of Andy like, "Hey, what's the worst that could happen?" And immediately hard cut to just the worst natural disasters in the world or whatever. And it's like, Andy could have stopped this. You could have saved us.
It actually kind of looks like, because it's a big outdoor wedding, that there is like some social distancing at this for arrangement.
Yes, there absolutely is. No, Nick, the joke is that the bride and groom are both running late.
Oh my goodness, can you believe it? Well, yeah.
Yeah. So we get a color spread that is kind of split into halves. On the right side is all the men, on the left side it's the women. They're all getting ready for the wedding day, and this is their post-time skip, epilogue designs. There are a couple notable things. Mui and Shen have twins. That's
Yep.
wild.
They got busy. Yeah.
But I need to comment on this now because I don't believe we actually see his fucking face in this chapter. Creed actually is the only character who looks to have undergone any kind of change.
Well, Julia's older, so
Yes.
she looks more like Julia is. Some of the younger members of Union have also obviously grown a bit. Phil looks a bit older, and Bunny looks older.
Yes.
But other than them, yeah, all of the young adult people look about the same. Even Tatiana, who is like quote unquote noticeably grown, yeah, her body's changed, but she's got like the same face. So,
I was gonna say she really has like perfect model face, and that after like I can't remember the exact amount of time that's supposed to pass, but it feels like maybe like 5 or 6 years. She looks identical. Like her face will never change, I guess.
mhm.
So I'm going to say a lot of characters' names throughout this chapter and then detail you with their
Wow.
epilogue because they made sure everyone got an epilogue, but because it couldn't come up naturally, there's just like a box next to every character's face when they show up for the first time about what they're doing. So forgive me if this is a little
Yeah.
awkward of a recap, but everyone got one, so I guess we should say it.
If this were going to be a more proper, and this is kind of what they were up to, and you had like a full explanation for it, this chapter would need to be like another 50% as long.
Yes.
With just because of the extensiveness of how big the cast is and how, yeah, everyone from Union is here.
Yes.
Like some of them only just like get a mention, but they're all here.
Yeah, and it also makes sense in the realm that's just like there's only like if you do that, then the story isn't about this either. Like you have to have characters actually talking about what they're doing. Here, these characters can just talk about the situation at hand, and we get a little box that's like, hey, here's what they're up to or whatever. As we get for
Yes.
Julia, who is a fencing pro, and she is also the one that's been left of managing the finances from Union after everything has gone by, and Victor, who is a sports trainer who spends his time mostly supporting Julia and Void.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Julia is shouting about how something must have happened to them and is asking for the lab members to check on Fuko and Andy's locations. Victor is confused because he's like, check, didn't we recall all of the emblems? And Julia says, don't worry, I snuck tracking devices into their belongings. So
Yeah.
She is.
I do like the note where someone's like, "Is it ethical for us to do this?" And someone else is like, "No, we got permission from them. It's cool."
These cats knew that they get lost a lot. They're like, it's actually probably for our benefit if you air tag me.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Ichiko is mentioned. She is basically coming back to the lab because she just gave birth to Miko. So there you go. They had their one child, just as Nico predicted. And
Miko from the color pages looks like she's definitely older than Shen and Mui's kids. So presumably she's been away on maternity leave, not just to have the birth, but also to raise her for a bit. So it seems that Miko is like maybe a toddler. It's kind of hard to tell because she doesn't really put in a big appearance in this chapter or anything.
No, nothing like that. But yes, you are correct. She is a little bit older, so she's the one who wants basically go back to the lab. Also, the lab members exist. If you were curious about what their situation was, don't worry. They are all included in one text box that's basically like, they still do stuff. They're still here, guys.
They're still lab members. They're still lab members. That's it, yeah.
So they look up at where Fuko's is, and Fuko's is out on Mount Ararat. Ararat? Is this a real mountain, Nick?
I don't know. You think I know geometry?
Mount...
I tried to say geography and geology at once and came up with one that was neither.
It is a real mountain, Nick. It's in Turkey.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Okay.
This is all about education and learning from ourselves.
That's what Undead Unluck has always been.
Yeah, this is actually the most instructional series in Jump right now. It's taught us all sorts of things.
Right now?
Just for the last chapter, because it taught me something. So Fuko is climbing Mount Ararat because she is going to all of the locations that the previous loop entailed, essentially. So she's like, yeah, this is where winter was, so this is where we gotta go. And along with Fuko is Gina. As her text box says, a painter and Fuko's attendant.
Man, that's like if Robin never became Nightwing. Like, no, it's okay. 5 years have gone by. I'm still your sidekick. It's cool.
I kind of like this because I was like, oh, she's like the Samwise to Fuko's Frodo. Like, she's like, wherever you go.
Sam got married to someone else, Quinn.
Didn't say she couldn't get married, Nick. It doesn't say painter and chaste attendant to Fuko for all time. She could be getting...
What else does she have going on?
She is a painter. She's an artiste. She has a lot of money to travel, Nick. Gina is a catch right now. I don't like your attitude towards her. This is a beautiful friendship.
Look, shit or get off the pot is all I'm saying.
She attends to Fuko's needs. What do you want?
No.
Fuko exclaims that she's going all around the world for all of this because she wants to experience the changes to this world as her current self. And Gina just notes, I don't think it's changed, but then again, it's a fun time either way. These two spend a lot of time together. Cut over to Andy, who's just beat up a bunch of people, and he says, sheesh, I get struggling and stealing to survive, but if you're gonna steal from guys stronger than you. Well, obeying the law, that is. And I don't know if that's a thing Andy has to say, or if that's a thing Andy has to say because Jump told him to say that.
What are you gonna do? Cancel me?
It's just like a weird thing where he's like, look, I get doing whatever you gotta do to survive, but do it from the people stronger than you. And follow all the rules, I guess. You're like, okay.
How hard of a task is that to accomplish, Quinn? Steal from people stronger than you while obeying the law. The law is meant to protect people stronger than them.
Yes. Like... it felt very much like they were like, ooh, we can't have Andy just insinuate stealing from people is the right way to do things. So he's going to say, get a job, actually, and do it while obeying all the laws.
This must be why the Yakuza in Astro Royale are nothing like Yakuza.
I just like it. It's just a fun little line he says, and he's like, hey, look, if you got food, come work for us. I'll be sure to work you guys to death. And we find out Andy is part of the developing country support group called Wind.
Is it wind or is it wind?
I assume it was wind, even though that thematically has no sense with Undead Unluck. It's just a cooler word, but maybe it is wind. I don't know.
It turns out there's an opposing group called Unwind, and it's like, maybe it was wind to begin with.
Holy shit! Unwind. If that's like the fucking epilogue chapter, I'm gonna lose my mind.
It was wind!
He is the security force captain, and we find out that Rip is there. He is the medical squad leader of this group, and Nico is also there. He is the science squad leader of the group. So they are helping to develop these nations by saving them from their illnesses, and Nico helps them like technologically advance themselves, essentially. And
it's nice to see Rip with a happy smile on his face.
Yes.
In this future.
Yes. And we also see there's like a moment of them being like, all right, well, August 1st, 2020's visit has been, and Fuko's also saying the same thing. And Andy and Fuko at the same moment kind of stop and they're like, oh, I forgot about the wedding. It's funny because both of them are kind of getting yelled at, and they just no sell it. Like Rip and Nico are like, dude, this is really fucking all the girls are really pissed about this right now. And like Gina is like shaking Fuko. Neither of them are reacting to it because they both have come to the same realization. They're like, I bet they did too. Like I bet the person I'm marrying also forgot today is the wedding. And if that case, if I get them before them, they have some weird line about they'll be the one to wear the pants in the relationship, which I guess is just the cleanest way to phrase, like, I don't want to lose to them in this situation.
Yeah, this is a very weird thing because Andy and Fuko have never been like this before.
It's strange because, yes, on one hand, they have not been, like, necessarily this competitive, but I like the idea that in the situation where, like, the world isn't constantly at stake, they still just do, like, the most extreme batshit dumb shit. I think it's weird, though, that Fuko is, like, I don't know, like, that she would be the one also saying, I'll be the one to wear... Both of them sound bad for saying, I'll be the one to wear the pants in this relationship. I was like, didn't you guys understand that there was a time when gender wasn't a thing in this world? You don't have to use that particular euphemism.
You don't have to have, an exclusively one-sided relationship with the person you love.
Yeah.
Like, that's a little bit weird.
Yeah, but I get the idea of just, like, I won't be the one who's late to the wedding. I'm going to get there before them. Gina has a great face as she's like, do you even fucking hear yourself right now? What's going on? So Fuko is picked up by Tatiana, who is a pro model / entertainer and is currently on vacation in Japan. And she is just lamenting that you idiots really were on the top of a mountain on the day of your wedding. And Fuko just begs her to not cringe. They fly by. There is a little bit of a banter back and forth. Fuko is ordered to basically start changing now because they have to get dressed by the time they get there. And she's like Tatiana's like, I already have the wedding dress. And if you wanted to make sure the image, the color page image from the beginning was canon, because we didn't talk about it, but Fuko's being like cinched into the corset with like a very like amusing expression. It canonically also happens here because Fuko just says, can I even fit into it? I packed in a few pounds. And then there's just, ugh.
I do appreciate that it is Tatiana who is doing that because it's a callback to, Fuko tying her in during the most recent loop.
Aww, yeah. Cut over to Andy, who is driving through the jungle of this underdeveloped nation, and Nico is trying to say, like, hey, even if we get there as fast as possible, like, we're probably not going to get there until the next day. And Nico's like, women are really scary when you forget about red letter days, they hold grudges forever. So I keep perfect track of that stuff.
I love how smug he is about it. It's like, I don't let that happen to me.
Yeah, he's like, unforgettable may have disappeared, but I still don't forget these dates. And
just one of those things where it's also an acknowledgement of like, Ichigo would tear me a fucking new one if I gave her the chance.
And then Rip comes in to be like, yeah, she almost snapped at him when you had an eureka moment when she was giving birth.
He's just like, I couldn't help it, okay?
He's like, what if a toaster had legs? She's like screaming.
How dare you?
He's just throwing things at him. Hey, who should show up, Nick? But Billy and Tella, they pick up the van in a military copter. Neither of them are still mercenaries, though. In fact, Billy is a history teacher, and Tella is a music teacher, which is adorable. That's such a great job for him. And Creed, who we don't ever get to really see his face, is an Air Force instructor.
There he is, back. There he is back there. He's waving. See,
yeah,
there he is. Yeah,
it's my good friend Creed. Oh, I love this guy. So they're gonna get there. Cut over to the wedding. It's the evening. They note that it's already night. The food's gotten cold that Julia made. Victor asks, should I bury them for wasting your food? And she's like, no, it's fine. We get to find out that what Haruka and Top are doing. Haruka has currently opened a shoe sports store called One Heart. And Top is an Olympic athlete and also the model for Haruka's store. So that's cute. Yep. Chikara is also there. He is Tatiana's personal cameraman, but he's considering quitting out of guilt that I guess he has had such a cushy job for so long.
I was trying to figure out, I was like, why are you feel guilty?
I can understand the level he feels guilty because he's like, I only have this deep connection with her because I was the one who had to take a picture of her to get her perfect model moment, in the previous loop before everything happened. And that's kind of what I think endeared her so much to me. So maybe I don't deserve it. It's one of those things, I don't know. This kid must be Catholic or something. I don't know why you have this much guilt going on in your head, Bo, but it's good. Everyone's okay with you. Car pulls up. Chikara is like, thank God. I was so worried. We wouldn't be able to get any pictures. And the door opens and he's like, well, you know how it is. The star always arrives fashionably late. And it's Sean, everybody. He's got a big cheesy smile and a big thumbs up. And Chikara apologizes. He's like, sorry, everybody. Wrong guy.
No. Sorry. It's not the important person. Sorry.
And we find out that Sean is an actor, but in this weird world where everybody's doing really, really well, Sean is struggling to land a leading role. And the reason he's late is because he sucked at his job. He was really bad and kept flubbing lines over and over again. So he's not a great actor, I guess.
I guess he's trying.
Yeah. In a panel that mostly is here to explain why Fang would show up to this event, Engine is here with his ramen cart, and he is still roaming with it.
Roman ramen.
Yep. Shen and Mui are there. They have a martial arts gym that they run together, and they just had a pair of twins, and they are here to explain that Fang would have only basically come if the best ramen was here. And we get an absolutely hilarious moment where there's just not enough time to do them all.
There's no time. Here they are.
Here's the rest. Yusai has a self-defense contract company. Fang has a studio where he takes in kids that have no parents to teach them martial arts. Karuru was a model an idol, but she retired and now she's an idol producer. Bax, which I guess is Bunny's name, but I didn't remember that, is a student who wants to make plush dolls. Phil works for his mother. Layla is got a book that's going to come out. Latla's back to being a fortune teller. Void is the current world boxing heavyweight champion, and he won't retire until he's beaten. Akira Kuno has a manga in Shonen Jump that is going to get an anime soon. That's all the other characters.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where Julia looks to the sky and says, oh, they're here, as Andy and Fuko's helicopters arrive at the exact same time. They both just leap out of the helicopter and land on the ground hand first, so both of their hands are shattered. They're just straight up broken
dead.
now.
They fell from 100 feet in the air. They're dead.
Yeah, it's just a bloody mess of a wedding. I don't need to go through every line of dialogue, but I did find it very funny that Julia is shouting at them, "Hurry up! If you two don't get married, Vic won't ever make up his mind, so please get on with it." And Victor just has a little like, huh? Expression.
What?
Like, I can only imagine what food he had in his mouth, like a giant piece of cake, like, huh? Andy asks for Fuko's finger and says, "Fuko, will you marry me even if death do us part? Let's always enjoy what this fate of ours has to offer." And Fuko accepts and says, "Let's." And we start getting a narration ending text about Undead Unluck. But before that happens, there's a couple little quick moments to say. There's a moment where Julia looks to Victor and says, "Next, you're going to show me your vision of justice." And Victor says, "Yes, ma'am." And I know the implication is he has to propose and marry her now, but it really, my mind's dirty, and I really
Doesn't sound like that. No.
it sounded so much filthier. Like she's like, "You're giving me a dickie tonight."
You're gonna spread them.
Yeah, I was like, she's gonna have a great time tonight. Go for it, Julia. There's also a moment Nico shows up. He has like a super cool motorcycle that everyone from Union helped to put together. We have, oh my gosh, what is her name? Gina. I wanted to call her Emily. That's not it. Gina runs up. It's like, "Here's the bouquet. Toss it over this way." And Andy is about to head off as Akira Anaun hands him something. But the narration says, "Undead Unluck. This is the story of Andy and Fuko Izumo and everyone living in this world and their quest for the greatest death ever." And we see that the item that was handed to Andy is the first volume of Undead Unluck.
Yeah, because apparently Akira Kuno's a hack.
Well, actually, Nick, this is plagiarism. So this series is going to be canceled, unfortunately. I think this is the last chapter we're ever going to get from it. It's a shame. Had a lot of potential going forward, but just one crying robot, and the series is done, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so I am of multiple minds about this chapter. I think that on its face, it's a fun little chapter. It's like, hey, here's everybody, here's what they're doing. There's some cute jokes here and there.
Sure.
Because there's so many characters to check in on. By the nature of that, there's not enough time to check in on everyone. Even so, I'm kind of upset that certain characters just didn't like do anything. Like that they're just complete afterthoughts. Like, hey, Rip gets a little thing here, and then Latla is just in the background doing nothing.
Yeah,
All
she's
right.
fortune telling again.
Cool. I again just wanted to. I think that we've kind of like come to grips with it a long time ago at this point. The immense heteronormativity of this series.
Sure.
But it's it's a Shonen Jump series, like typical thing, so it's not that big a deal.
Wouldn't it be great if Andy was like handed to like one more rule for the system, and he's like, "The queer rule," and throws it over his shoulder. Like, oh no, Andy's a bigot.
The pride rule? Nah. So, it doesn't do anything to like make me feel better about the way that the series ended as a whole, but it's a fine chapter in a bottle.
Sure.
I also am kind of struggling with certain small details because it's such a jam-packed chapter. Like this is an extended chapter. It's like 30 pages long, as opposed to a regular 20. But even so, there's some things where it's like, oh, there's just like no time to have like any explanation of anything that's going on. It's just like it has to either land on its face or it just doesn't. That moment where Gina is like going to Fuko and says, "Hey, toss the bouquet that way." It's like, who does she want to catch it? Herself?
Yeah, that was a moment.
Who's she saying to toss it to? Because that feels like it should be an important joke. Like,
yeah, we don't actually even get to see, I think, who catches it, because the bouquet is not even like caught by the end of the chapter, and it's like the last panel was her throwing it. So like, I don't really even know who is supposed to get it.
Yeah, I have no idea, because she's not like pointing towards anyone. She's pointing off panel and she's pointing a direction, but if you look at where she comes from and then where they are, you can't tell at all like what direction she's pointing in. And it's like, okay, is she like saying, "Hey, bestie, make sure you toss over this way because I'm going to be over here and I want to catch it," which is something that, I can see a lot of people doing. Or is it like, "Hey, everyone wants Julia to get Victor to fucking pop the question, so make sure she catches the bouquet so he'll get it through his thick fucking skull."
That'd be great if Haruka just walks up and like sleeper holds Julia and it catches the bouquet for herself and it's like,
Nope,
oh, you
mine.
see top, look what happened.
They don't have a line, by the way.
No, they don't really do anything, but they were important enough to not be in the box of characters who all got their backstory or their futures told at once. So I guess that's significant.
I want to explain how insulting it is to be in that box of characters because all the people in the lab members are more prominently visible in their one panel where it's a joke that all the rest are here. Like, it's really annoying. There's like, everyone else.
I do still like this chapter. I think it's fine as a conclusion. I think there's also like a fun kind of full circle moment of ending the series with a manga when it started with a manga. Like, that's just kind of nice. And hey, yeah, why wouldn't it be a story about itself? That happens all the time in these sorts of series. So go for it. I just think it's a bummer that the series was so big it couldn't really handle the size of its cast in this moment. There's just so many people going on that it's like hard to really connect with any one moment or anything like that. So I just enjoyed the silly, story of like Fuko and Andy are both just kind of like really intense about getting to their own wedding that they both forgot to get to because they're both a little kind of absent-minded.
Yeah, it's a cute joke. I, again, don't know exactly how consistently they're acting with Fuko being like, "I'm going to be the one to dominate this relationship." When has that ever been a thing for you guys? You guys are like the best of partners. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was like a weird thing of like, I don't want to set up a precedent. Like, is your relationship on rocky grounds? What's going on with you two?
I have to be the winner.
Your love quite literally saved the world.
That's just that's just the depressing ending of it, is that he's like, "Oh yeah, after all the negator abilities and stuff were gone, we just kind of realized we're just not that into each other."
He's like, actually, it turns out what I was most attracted to was Unluck. That was really the best thing about her. I'm not a boobs guy. That's weirdly, never have been, just doesn't really do anything for me. So yeah.
Andy, why was boobs the first thing you said?
I just want to be very clear.
Actually, I think I know why this relationship didn't work out. Come to think of it.
Maybe you should get the pride rule back and slot that in there, buddy.
Well, no, that's crazy. Okay. But that's Undead Unluck. My negative feelings about the end of the series in general aside, I did have a great time with us covering it. And yeah, we'll find out, I guess, what's going to be stepping into the magazine to take that slot next week.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I guess I should say something. It's probably the last time we'll talk about Undead Unluck in any kind of real formal manner besides the end of the year recap. But I have enjoyed Undead Unluck a lot in the magazine. I know this was one that I was reading on my own and kind of really pitched to add into the magazine or the recap. And I'm very glad that we got to like go over the spring arc in particular, together. Absolutely. That I think was like a really high point for like, not just like Undead Unluck, but just like manga in general. I was like, this is a really damn good arc. So cool stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely. That is still something that stands out in my mind as some of the best that Undead Unluck ever was. And I'm very, very happy that we were able to cover it week to week.
Yeah.
But now we're going to go on to Blue Box.
Blue Box.
It's chapter 181, Not Gonna Miss. So Chinatsu's team, Ame, is trying to catch up with Saisho. That's Yumika's team. They have narrowed the lead down. They're down still by 2 points, which is a single basket. But the Yumika is still sitting on the bench at this point, and so that that catching up that they have done is just because Yumika's out of action. We get some stuff in Chinatsu's. So there is Chinatsu kind of like thinking on in general how with Yumika, which was something we touched on in the last chapter, but also we get to see more stuff from just like her life since meeting Taiki. And importantly, it's not just stuff that we have seen since the beginning of the manga, it's her remembering him from like the first time that she saw him. Because of course, we didn't, catch up with these two from the moment that Taiki first laid eyes on Chinatsu. His crush was already something that exists. So like this, we see something from like 2 years, I want to say, before the series takes place. And so Chinatsu's in her third year of junior high, Taiki is in his, and they kind of run each other in the gym. And there's just a moment where like Chinatsu's kind of observing because Taiki's the guy who's always showing up early, just like her. That, hey, talking with his fellow club members, and she just picks up his name just by kind of like, oh, his name's Taiki because someone says that. Oh, his name's Hinamata. Okay. And then after that point is when we get Chinatsu learning about Yumika deciding that she's, not doing basketball anymore because of, the move. And we get like a very quick version of the flashback that she had when, she and Yumika had their falling out, and she had that moment of self-reflection of, I guess that, it was just me who really, really cared about basketball. I was just the only like freak when it came to practicing this way. But after she has that thought of like, was it really just me? Taiki comes in early in the morning to start working on Babin, and Chinatsu takes, comfort in that there is this kind of soul who has a lot in common with her in this way. And then there's the moment where Chinatsu is going to, have to like go to America, she thinks. But then it's actually her mom who comes to her with the idea of like, hey, well, my friend, Mrs. Hinamata, we don't see all the details. We don't need to. But Chinatsu is now reflecting on all these moments, and she says, I wanted to become the best, and I wasn't alone, thinking of Taiki. And I felt that way ever since then, even though I couldn't be honest and said it was always about basketball. Yumika's not the only one who's changed. I have too. And then we do start getting more and more moments that we have like seen in the series, mostly moments that she has had with Taiki, encouraging him, taking encouragement from his example and his hard-working spirit. And we get a big collage of scenes of the two of them together, not even like romantic moments, but like moments where they like had a good time together. They just walked home together. She watched him playing, he watched her playing, and they wished each other luck as they grew and practiced hard. And she says, over the past 3 years, I really have gotten stronger. And she goes for a shot and sinks the basket. And she thinks, I changed. I'm not gonna miss anymore. And of course, like all of the big moments that Chinatsu has had, failures, basketball related failures, have been associated with her missing shots. Obviously, like there was the most recent one where she got injured and stuff, so she didn't like actually miss a shot, but she didn't sink the basket either because of that injury. So that's the big thing going on. It's like, hey, AMA has turned the game around. They now have the lead. They're up by 3 because Yumika has been on the bench, and now she's getting really antsy because she sees that Chinatsu is excelling and is leading her team ahead. So she's just glaring at the coach. And the coach turns and says, like, look, if I put you back in now, you are not going to have the stamina to make it to the end of the game. And Yumika counters by saying, I will force myself to stay in the game. And she says, I'm trying right now to grasp the meaning behind the phrase, there's no use crying over spilled milk. Because if I hadn't quit back then, becoming an Olympic athlete would just be a dream. And
That's
the
a
coach, like,
crushing thing for a child to have to realize about themselves.
The coach is just like, why the hell does she think she is that good, basically? But Yumika says, like, look, the fact is, I did quit back then. I couldn't remember why I had been playing basketball. And how did I lose focus like that, even though I love the sport so much? And the coach tries to, say, like, well, like, everyone loses sight of some things when we grow up. And she says, I'm not that old. Well, no. When you're in the process of growing up, that's what he means.
You're always getting older, darling. That just happens.
What?
This is bullshit.
No, my dreams of becoming an Olympic athlete was just a dream now. Damn it.
He's like, well, I guess every second you don't spend working on that goal, it does get harder and harder for it to achieve. Like, I'm
on the bench right now. Damn you, coach.
I'll kill you, old man.
I'll kill you and take your youth. I don't know if it might be too late for you to do that.
I'll drain it from your eyes, you old sack of shit. She's like, you're not getting off the bench.
Number 11 has been kicked out of the game.
He's been sent to a juvenile detention facility for threatening cannibalism again.
Everyone's like, wow, Chinatsu, I guess you couldn't possibly have imagined that your game with Yumika would have gone this way. No, actually, I could have. She's always kind of been a psychopath.
Look at those eyes. That looks like the eyes of a normal girl to you? No.
So the coach says, all right, get out there and have fun. You're stronger when you're enjoying yourself. And so everyone realized, like, hey, Yumika led her team to a big lead in the first half. She's back in the game. Even though Aime's got the lead, no telling who's going to win at this point. And so Yumika takes over. She starts doing some fancy stuff. She does a behind the back cross step, drives through the defense. But when she shoots the shot, it goes off the rim. So Aime recovers. Chinatsu gets the ball. Yumika heads her off on defense. Chinatsu crosses by her and scores a basket on Yumika. And so now Aime is up by 4 points. And there is a moment where Yumika thinks, see how easily admiration crumbles away. Now I'm the one chasing her. Funny how that works. And so this is getting exciting. Basketball in the fourth quarter, Quinn.
I've always been told it's so good when it gets to that point, and I always forget to watch. Next time, Nick, I promise next time I'll definitely watch the basketball game that's exciting.
The basketball game that's exciting?
Yeah, there's like one, right?
Yeah.
Basketball is a sport that famously they do best of ones?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Season is one game. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it wouldn't just be one game. You have to have a regular season. Like the NFL is 17 games, 18 games, or whatever. I'm sure the
256 total. Sure. Yeah.
And NBA was probably like 20 games a season tops.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess 25 if you include playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And baseball's even fewer.
Oh yeah, baseball is actually. It's just 6 teams. They get around and they just agree at a table which team was the world champion this year.
I mean, sometimes it does feel that way with certain sports.
Yeah, I was gonna say
definitely feels that way with the NFL right now. Let me tell you, it's like, who's gonna win this year? The Chiefs? Yeah, let's just do that.
I have never, Nick. I feel terrible saying this. I'm a lifelong New York Giants fan, and I say lifelong. I started really kind of liking them when I was 17 or 16 or whatever, but lifelong, let's say. I've always rooted for this team if I've rooted for it. I was known for being just a vitriolic Eagles hater. I have to root for the Eagles in this Super Bowl. I don't have a choice. Do you know how many times in the past 2 weeks I have begrudgingly muttered the words, "Go Birds"? I hate it, Nick, but this is what they have left me with.
Yeah. I'm kind of there with you. Like, I don't even hate any one of the Chiefs. It's just when I was like, no, you don't get to win 3 in a row. Fuck you.
Yeah. You don't get to be this happy. No one else should. I don't get to be, so you don't.
We'll see how it goes. God. All right.
Now, Nick, let's talk about Chainsaw Man. Broom, broom.
Chainsaw Man 179, cause I'm a devil. Turns
191.
Out, did I not say that?
I thought I heard you say 179.
Oh, I may have. I apologize if I did. I meant to say 191. I don't know. Maybe my mouth works weird sometimes.
Maybe I misheard you and I'm an asshole. So I'm going to apologize in advance.
It doesn't matter. I'm not worked up about this particular one. It turns out the Devil Hunters Club guys, and it looks like also Samurai, were all taken into custody. So, yeah, we had them around for a little bit. They're no longer involved in the plot currently. So,
cool.
Thanks, Yoshida, I guess.
Sorry, Kobeni's cousin or whatever.
Yeah. And Yoshida's like, I mean, I don't expect that you guys will care that much. It's like, no, of course they won't care. Why would any of them care about any of them? But then he gives us a brief recap of the stuff that happened while he was not really aware of things because, you know, he became Chainsaw Man. And he's like, all right, so you caught everyone but us, himself and Asa and Fami. And then Pochita got his butt handed to him by Asa. Yes, that happened. And Asa wrecked Tokyo with the Statue of Liberty. And Yoshida says, yep. I mean, that does happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Denji looks over at Asa, realizes like, wait a minute, you grew your arm back. Something's not right with you. And Asa, to signify that she has changed, unties her hair, and Yoru starts laughing. Yeah, and she says, I'll reveal my true identity. You see, I am the War Devil. I am Yoru, Asa's other personality. And she's just trying so hard to have her big like, evil villain reveal while sitting in a booth at a diner.
It's so funny because she is putting everything into it. She's like leaning back. She's, you know, untying her hair. She's laughing maniacally so much. And then she is responding, I guess, in the way that you would, which is like, well, this is fucking insane or whatever.
Wow, really? Yeah. What the fuck?
And she's just like, yes, I'm such a terrified individual. But you know, they don't show us it really. But the other half of this table would have no reaction to this whatsoever.
No.
They don't give a shit about any of this.
No. So she says that the only reason that she is sitting calmly and making peace with everyone is that, quote, Asa's mind will break if I continue taking lives.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. So she says, I'm just allowing you to live. You're puppets to me. Puppets in the palm of my hand. And then she goes, palm of your hand. Wait a second! Which of you gave me a hand job?
It's so funny because the moment he stops and he's like, palm of your hand, I was like, he's going to reference the hand
He's
job.
going to know it. Yeah, he's going to know it, yeah. And then he just does. He just goes right for it. It's like, which of you tricked me off? And Yoru tries... Well, no, she just goes for it. She's just like, ooh, do you want to find out? And Denji is like, this is the top of my priority list. This. And just gets out of the seat, gets out of his hands, and he's like, please tell me which of you did it.
Well, no, I think he's just like... He wants to find out if he's going to get another hand job. He's just like...
Oh, yeah, he wants to know if he should be asking her or Asa, yes.
Yeah, he's like, so there's more of those, potentially.
And Yoshida looks mildly bemused by the situation. Fumiko is just kind of like, well, yeah, this is happening. Okay, man.
Her mind, I think, if you like listen to it, it's just chaos. It's like cars crashing and babies screaming. Like that girl doesn't have a normal thought.
Yoru says to Denji, I'll tell you if you eat your own hand. So the next time we see Denji, he's back in the booth and he's eating his hand. He's just got it wrist deep in his mouth.
So, God, I love Fujimoto's humor so much because it's the perfect beat where she's like, I'll do it if you eat your own hand. And we're all like mentally like, he's going to eat his own hand. But like slow roll it because there's a whole normal ass panel of Yoshida talking. Like they're like carrying on, like the conversation's continuing and you just get to a panel. And it's again, not the focal point. We just see Denji is, as you said, wrist deep of hand in his mouth.
He's gotten to the hardest part. He's gotten past the knuckles and around the wrist bone. Like, Jesus.
Well, we know that his mouth is obscenely flexible by his ability to consume people whole.
Yeah, I imagine that he's only having trouble at this point because it's really hard to like angle it at at the point that he's reached at in order to keep feeding it into your mouth.
Yeah.
So Yoshida points out, like, well, you beat the shit out of Chainsaw Man. You burnt him to cinders. So why haven't you turned him into a weapon? I thought that was one of your goals. And Yoru, poker face. He's like, smiling serenely and knowingly. Points at Denji. He's like, look at him. He's eating out of the palm of my hand. No, he's eating his own hand. You're confused. But she says, he's so cute, isn't he? He's my dog. All I need to do is show him a little affection. He'll do anything. So I'm gonna play with him a little first. And Yoshida and Fumiko very obviously stare at her and then look at each other. And while yours like looking at them, like, what the fuck are they looking at each other for? Like, it's so very obvious to everyone but her, basically.
They're like, oh, we've kind of done this before, actually.
Yeah. So Yoshida says, like, okay, that's fair, but you really should just turn him into a weapon immediately. And Denji takes his hand out of his mouth and says, hey, what are you talking about? And Yoru gets upset that he stopped eating his hand, so she's like, hey! And so he goes, all right, let me say that again. And puts his hand in his own.
He gets it back in there quick.
Really fast. So Yoshida gives us the plot here, which is that Death, the oldest sibling of Yoru and Fami, is going to descend soon. And nobody has the means to stop her. Even you and Chainsaw Man might be unable to even stand on the same battlefield as her. But if you could control Chainsaw Man as a mindless weapon, then humanity has a chance of surviving and maybe even overcoming death. And so Denji's like, wait, that's why you made me become Chainsaw Man? That's why you killed Nayuta? And Yoshida, just like, hey, look, I didn't forget about our conversation in the Aging Devil world. And he puts a gun on the table in front of them. And Denji's a little bit surprised by this. Yoru looks kind of intrigued, and Fami just looks like,
I can't eat that.
More fries. Yeah, where are my fries?
She's like, that gun isn't made of chocolate.
Yoshida says, if you turn into a weapon, we'll let you kill us. Denji picks up the gun, contemplates it. Next panel, click, puts it right at Yoshida, pulls the trigger 3 times before realizing it's not going to work. So Yoshida looks mildly perturbed. Fumiko looks like she was like waiting for a bang to go off, I guess, or maybe she was like, "Oh God, I'm gonna like see some brains in my coffee soon."
I think she was. I don't think she was expecting him to pull the trigger, but I think
just immediately.
Yeah, I think there's maybe just also a concern that's like, I mean, I assume Yoshida didn't put bullets in that gun,
right?
But he did agree to let me get killed in part of this deal, so maybe.
And Yoshida just goes, "Huh, I really thought that you'd forgive us." And then just like, "You lied! Fuck you! You said you let me kill you." Yoru says, "Aren't humans foolish, Denji? Lies and schemes are all they know. They lack the confidence to act on instinct." And she demonstrates the value of acting on instinct when the waiter comes by with a strawberry cake and she snatches it off the tray and throws it right in Yoshida's face. And he just takes it, does not react at all. Denji gets upset that Yoru has wasted food. So Yoru's like, "Oh, excuse me? I'm allowed to waste food, 'cause I'm a devil." And while she's still standing on the table, she points her hand at Yoshida and says, "Bang." Oh dear.
Yeah, we'll see.
Problem?
we'll see what happens. Maybe there's a light bang she could do, or maybe it was a bang next to his head or something like that. It feels like she's right now in like a full on I'm gonna toy with everybody. Like I am undefeatable at this point or whatever. So I guess we shall see if Yoshida still has a head next chapter or not.
I saw some discussion of Yoru's characterization in this and how it seems to be like kind of like weird. And it's like, yeah, that's the point. It's that she's very confused right now. She got to accomplish her goal, but also not. And also there's very clearly a very strong sexual attraction she feels towards Chainsaw Man that she obviously has no idea what to do with. So there's a lot of stuff going on with her, and she's deciding to act on instinct because she thinks that she's super powerful with her gun hands again, and she thinks that nothing can stop her from just acting how she wishes instead of, thinking clearly about things in order to make a plan, which is what Asa does.
Yes. Very interesting. I'll be curious to see how true that sentiment is. That's just like, oh, if I kept killing people, Asa would have just mentally broken down. Like, she would have just, like, she would have not been able to handle it, just collapsed, basically.
Yeah, don't really know if we have any evidence of that there, Yoru, because you did kill a lot of people, and Asa was still thinking kind of rationally when you guys went to the Aging Devil world, so I don't know if you're correct.
Yeah, we shall see, but in the meantime, Nick, we have such a big chapter of Astro Royale to talk about. We don't want to waste any more time. Chapter 38 versus Hachiku. Nick,
Hachiku?
The long-awaited showdown between Hibaru and Hachiku.
Yeah, so Hachiku with the explosion abilities and stuff, and Hibaru is facing off against him, and he has just declared that he's going to rebuild the country from chaos, which Hachiku thinks is completely ridiculous. Calls it an over-the-top sense of righteousness. What kind of Yakuza does that? Tarasu shouts out a warning to Hibaru, which is, that Astro involves that fireball exploding. There's been like 3 explosions.
I was going to say, dog.
Hibaru's face. What are you talking about?
Well, I like the idea that he's like, Hibaru, the Astro involves fireballs exploding. He's like, you couldn't have said that 3 fireballs ago? Like, what the fuck? I got that, dude, and I'm an idiot. Like, what the fuck?
I don't know exactly what the point of the timing of this is, but now Hachiku, he brings up one of the black flames that he has been exploding and says, yeah, that's right, this is my ability, Spark. And then I, the female member of the Yakuza Association, she's like, you dumbass, what are you revealing your own power for? It's not, he was very obviously throwing flames that exploded. I don't know why. This is a secret.
Everyone's acting like this is like a JoJo power, like a fireball floated by me and exploded. And I'm supposed to be like, enemy stand user must be around. Like, I get it, dude. It's not that complicated. Like,
so Hachiku's older brother is there, and also his younger brother is in the BDSM situation. And she's pointing a gun to his head and says, if you don't hurry up and kill him, your little brother's gonna be dead. Yeah, so that's going on. And Hibaru says, are all the people from the Japanese Yakuza Association pieces of trash? And Hachiku gets pissed off by this because he is, associated with the... Never mind. He calls out a bunch of black flames and makes them into a big dragon snake shaped thing, and then with his exploding dragon snake fire thing out, he says, I don't want to kill you, so you should run out of the ring. Right, okay.
It's good that this guy's a morally upstanding guy who we can kind of sympathize with, because last chapter his brother was like, I'm a human trafficker. I love trafficking people, including your young sister. And we need to feel bad for them this chapter. So this guy's kind of just a little polite. And it kind of evens out the crimes when you think about it.
Oh, and Hibaru's being respectful towards him. Therefore, he's redeemable, basically.
Yeah, you're like, this guy, if this series keeps going, this is going to be their Vegeta. He's going to show up somewhere down the line and we're like, Hachiku's here!
Hachiku. So Hibaru says, all right, well, since I know about your Astro, I'll tell you about my Astro. And Trust's like, that idiot always matches his opponent's energy. His power is that he can punch at different strengths.
I love these two have the most obvious, straightforward powers, but they have to share a moment where they're like, I guess I'll clue you in. So my giant glowing fist over here is real strong, and it can punch real hard. Like, no shit. Everyone has to act like, why are you revealing your powers? It's like he's like, oh, and don't have iron. If I get touched by iron, I get, deadly allergic and radioactive and I die or something like that. He's just explaining that he punches people. Come on.
But he's gonna do something he hasn't done before, Quinn, which is only trigger 2 of the recoil things out of 3 on his arm, which means that he'll go at 50% power instead of, doing 100% and immediately tiring himself out. He charges in. There's a kind of like mid-page spread of the two of them clashing as Hibaru punches the dragon thing. And Hachiku, when the smoke clears, has been knocked out of the ring. Hibaru wins. Okay. So, the Yakuza Association is like, yeah, you idiots, and all the people who bet on Hachiku are like, fuck you, and they're throwing cans and stuff at him, and they're like, only your death can make up for this.
It's a real, oh god, what was the real bash at the beach moment, Nick, where the NWO was revealed. Everyone's throwing their cans at the ring.
And Hachiku summons another spark of flame and is like, oh, y'all shut up, you're worthless. And then he addresses Hibaru and says, I don't give a damn about the tournament. I'm going to kill you anyway. And Hibaru steps off of the arena and he goes over to the flame that Hachiku has summoned and he just grabs it in his hand. And so Yoshino's like, oh, he grabbed the bomb thing. Just blow his arm off. That'll be great. But Hachiku is, stunned by this. And Hibaru says, I'm not the one you want to throw this spark at, am I wrong? I'm gonna destroy the Japanese Yakuza Association! And he spins around and he throws the spark and it goes straight towards the Yakuza Association and he goes, no, Hachiku! And Hachiku's like, oh yeah, snaps his fingers and explosion goes off. And a big smoke cloud happens. And everyone's like, oh my god, all the leaders of the Yakuza Association, what the fuck? And when the smoke clears, Hibaru is holding Hachiku's younger brother, who was where he threw the spark
he's
towards.
Fine, dude. He's fine,
so he
don't worry about it.
He threw it and then outran it. Not only outran it, but got there first and then got away from the blast. So Mr. Perfect Hibaru here throwing himself a touchdown pass. Just, all right, I guess he's that fast. He's never demonstrated this kind of speed before. And in this moment, we just have to assume, yes, he is that fast. Power, like death battle power scalers are going to have to reference this moment from now on as Hibaru's maximum speed ability. For I guess,
yeah, all the power battlers out there are gonna have to consistently reference the moment in Chapter 38 where Hibaru outruns his own fireball explosion.
Like he gets it a really strong head start too, because you see him at the steps throwing it, so it's like. He's also got like 50 feet to gain on this thing first.
He's on the opposite side of the arena from this happening. He has to cover the entire arena to get here.
How did this guy not just dash in and punch Hachiku in the face to win immediately?
Yeah, I feel like Hibaru really should be utilizing his speed a lot more. He should be getting behind his enemies and then striking them when they can't respond.
So everyone in the association's fine, of course. But a lot of the leaders are pissed off. Hachiku thanks Hibaru for protecting his little brother, and he's like, yeah, he means the world to me. I owe you one. All right, that's it. Cool. Hibaru made another friend. Who cares?
No, Nick, don't you understand? This character is essentially going to be like the Haryuden of this group. He's going to be a member of like the greater Shinobi Empire, and he's going to lead the Hachiku group or whatever. It's going to be a cool moment when this dude shows up again. You're going to lose your mind.
where is the Bartolomeo stand-in? Where is he?
Only one series is perfect enough to get a Bartolomeo.
That's true.
You guys can have Odeo, or whatever the fuck his name is. The guy with the boxing arms.
I can't believe I remembered who you were talking about.
There's two funny members of Luffy's Greater Straw Hat Alliance. It's Odeo and Orlumbus. Those are the two that always make me laugh.
Just the big guy, but not the giant big guy, just the big guy.
No, if you were to think Orlumbus's contributions to the group were defined by his size, unfortunately there is someone who beats him out in that regard.
Literally a giant whose whole thing is uniting the giants. Like,
no, he's got a bunch of
oh, you
ships.
mean me? No, not you.
Oh, gosh. All right. Eva 10, Nick.
Yes, it's chapter number 27, Homemate Kana. Kana is doing some more Grevere shoots, so there's some cheesecake. I hesitate to say that, though, because, I don't know, something about the proportions is very weird in this panel.
Great. Yeah, I was like, starting to... I think I can see that Genki Ono seems to be somebody who likes to draw fashion a lot. And maybe that's why there's not so much fan service in this series, because they're like, actually, I don't really know how to draw like a naked lady in an attractive way. I just draw them in cute clothes.
It seems like there might be like two different references that were composited together poorly in this, because the legs don't seem to match the torso.
Exactly.
Anyway, Kana is doing some work. After her photo shoot, she gets some news, which is that she has been cast in a movie. It's a minor part, but she's like, yeah, I'm going to make my big debut. She brings the good news to her friends at school. So Himari gives her a big hug and is like, hey, even if you've got a minor role, that's amazing. So nice, big congratulations. Much more restrained from Honoka and Iamori, who were just in the sidelines being like, yeah, good job.
Yeah. They're like, that sounds cool.
Yeah, like there is no way I can match Himari's energy here, so I will not try. I will stay polite instead. Yes. But Kana brings up the point of like, oh, I kind of need to go to like a salon, because like I haven't been to a salon since moving here. And Himari says, yeah, we should get your hair treated, especially since you use bleach, which is just kind of like occasionally a nice detail thrown in of like, hey, this character in this world does not have like a very natural hair color. And it's like, well, no, in this case, it's because they use bleach, as opposed to in some cases where it's like, well, no, there are characters that just have natural blue hair in this world. Yeah. So whatever. It's just an extra detail.
No, I like it. It shows something that they're like, oh, yeah, this is actually a thing you would just need to consider. If you are going to bleach your hair, you need to take care of it. That's something you should probably do before this important movie role.
So Himari recommends her a place, which is like the place that she goes to get her hair done. And when Kana sees it, it's like, oh my god, it's twice as expensive as the place that I went to back home. And Himari says, oh yeah, but they do such a good job. And it's like, yeah, but Himari, you make way more money than Kana does. So and Himori and Honoka both realize that. And then Honoka remembers something, and Iamori goes, oh, yeah. And they just kind of have their own little private conversation. Himari kind of notice it, but then they just, like, go back to talking with each other. Himari offers, like, well, like, I could cover it to, like, celebrate. Kana doesn't want to keep on relying on Himari for things, and I do like that there are just, like, certain breaking points that she reaches of, like, you're helping me out too much with everything. I don't want to do it on this one thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'll find a place I can afford. Their teacher comes up and Kana, I don't know why.
It just tickles.
This one just really got me.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I think I am okay with this reaction for some reason, because it's just like, yeah, you know what? I guess it would be notable if you were that age. You were like, damn, it's the one teacher with bigger knockers than me. This sucks.
Just the teacher comes up. She is a busty lady, and Kana goes, the teacher with more assets than me. And it's not just that too. It's that she also has a sound effect reaction, which is Kana.
It's also like, I don't know, maybe it's the fact she didn't like lead into the panel with like her boobs or something like that. She just has to. And I just love the word, I
Yeah.
don't know, the assets than me is just such a funny way of describing it.
So she tells them all, like, go, everyone go back to class, and kind of breaks up the conversation. But of course, that means that, Himari and Iamori are left sitting together. He tells her what Hanoko were talking about, and she's like, oh, I guess that'd work. And so after school, Iamori brings her to a place that is nearby, and kind of like, I'm surprised that you let me come here, as they head into Amulet? Is that something that's pronounced, or is it just amulet? I guess it's amulet, and that's an amulet. Like,
I think that's an amulet, and then the thing before it is the logo.
I guess that's the case. Oh yeah, because afterwards you just see it without the logo. It's just amulet. Okay. So kind of asks like, oh, is it really okay that I get to go here? And I kind of figured from the very moment that Honoka and Iamori started having their conversation that this was going to be where it led to. And yeah, sometimes, that's just like the way to do things is just like, yeah, just fucking, sure, make it obvious. It's fine. It's Iamori's mom. This is where she works. And she also apparently bleaches her hair.
Did we know that she's a hairdresser?
No.
Because
it might have come up, actually.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, I know Akane's mom and Akane Banashi is a hairdresser. There are multiple hairdresser moms in Jump right now. Should they be hanging out more often?
Oh, we're gonna talk about something else later on in terms of like common threads in a lot of Shonen Jump recently. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So yeah, Iamori's mom is like, "Oh, you're here. Is that your younger model friend?" And yeah, so Kana's like very, very gorgeous and sexually developed, so she's like, oh, you're younger, okay, all right. So she's just like caught off guard by her appearance for a second, and Kana's really shy though, just like, oh, thank you for taking care of my hair. She's really nervous and stuff, and Iamori is like, why are you so nervous? And Kana says like, I don't know. It's like, it's because you have a crush on Iamori and you're meeting his mom. Like, it's Iamori's mother just adores Kana immediately, and she immediately is just like, my boy's got a girlfriend, basically. Like, she doesn't say that, but it's clear like, oh, she's such a cute girl. Yes, of course. Yes, let me
it's like impossible, I think, for a parent like that to have like a sibling, like to have a child come home with like the romantic person like type that they like, and you're like not immediately kind of trying to ship them together. Like, you brought such a cute girl home, they could be your girlfriend, like that kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's something that I've never had happen to me, but I've heard like I had a really good friend who had a friend that she had been friends with for like since they were kids, and they got the whole thing of like, oh, they could be like a couple when they grow up, and they were both just kind of like, no, that'd be weird. Like, I've known them my whole life. No. So they just kind of like had to deal with that.
I'd actually prefer any other option than that. Actually, that's actually the person I would least want to be with.
Yeah, I imagine that for people who have that kind of relationship, it is like literally either yes, we were like destined to be together because we knew each other this long, but that's in such a small percentage of cases, and for everyone else it's like no, never. Ever. But Kana is left in Iamori's mom's care. I really like the way her hair looks when it's being worked on. When it's like damp and stuff, I don't know. Like I just like the way it's drawn. It's very cute. It's very cute and it looks pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because it also does show some skill with Genki Ono of like, oh yeah, like here is how we are going to signify that her hair is damp and being worked on right now and stuff like that. Just it's good artistry.
Mm-hmm. There is a moment where Iamori like is like, oh, I'll just go home, and then he just ends up Kana is like, what, really? And then he decides to stay instead, and he admits like, yeah, I guess it would be just awkward if you're just here alone with my mom. Kana is much more comfortable immediately with him there. She starts teasing him. It's like, oh, do you have your mom cut your hair? He's like, I come here for the discount and someone else cuts it for me.
I love it's the most practical answer and so true to this boy's character. He's just like, I mean, I'm not going to miss out on a free discount, but no, I don't let my mom cut my hair.
Yeah, I feel like I would be the exact same way at his age, certainly.
Yeah.
But his mom's like, yeah, except for all the times until middle school when I did cut it. It's like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, why wouldn't you? At some point, you're like, I'm just going to do this for free. You don't pay at all, buddy. Like, I'm just going to cut your hair.
His mother brings up to Kana, like, I'm surprised because, like, he's got such a cute girl as a friend. He's never seems to have, like, girls as friends. And Kana's like, yeah, he's got plenty of girls as friends right
I love her look when she says that. She's like, oh, he has plenty of cute girls as friends right now.
And Ymor's like, no, I just happened to know some girls this year. And she's like, which means you have girlfriends now. Yes. Which brings up the point of, like, Kana saying, like, so does he, like, not talk to you about, like, anything that he has going on in his life? So, just joining in with the parent to gang up on the guy who's, a teenager and doesn't want to talk to his parents as much. It's,
yeah,
stuff happens. But Kana then thinks of the point of, like, that means that I'm the only one of those girlfriends that his mom knows about. But then she looks at Ymor and she's just kind of like takes a little bit of amusement from him, like, you're kind of cold to your mom. But she's just, like a little private thought that she has.
She's being coy about it when she's realized she has this little secret thing to herself, but she is ultimately like, it is kind of mean for you to shut your mom off from all of this information about your life. You live a very rich social life at this point. You should clue your mom into a little bit. But yeah, she treasures having this little special thing that none of the other girls have.
Yeah. So Ymor thinks to himself, like, maybe I was like I'm getting too involved by doing this. Himari looked kind of uncomfortable when this came up, and we see, like, kind of just her going, which we don't really see the reasoning behind it, but she might be a number of things.
Yeah, so she might be a little jealous herself as well.
It could very easily just be that, or it could be something like for weird professional reasons.
Yeah,
but maybe she's upset that, like, Kana's not going to the place she recommended, for example.
Could be that as well.
Ymori reflects on the fact that he has girlfriends, and I'm trying to leave the space there, where he says that in middle school he asked them to tell me if Kanai had ever stopped by, or if any of my other classmates did. All right, you little nosy boy. But then Kana kind of gets to use one of the tablets that they've got here, and she's like, "Oh, can you read books on it?" And Ymor is like, "Oh, yeah, they're set up and stuff." And Kana pulls up, one of her most recent shoots, and just like, "Hey, it's her in a bikini." And she's like, "Did you find the one that I'm in?" And Ymor is like, "Yeah, I also bought a physical copy." He's being a good supportive fan and stuff. But Kana says, "Okay, but please don't tell your mom."
Dude, I cannot. I was like, I would rather explode than if this scene ends with, like, Kana dropping the thing and she's like, "This is the kind of modeling you do?" Like, I would just implode before I would ever confront that situation again.
You just, okay, so this is your friend, and you just, like, loyally look at pictures of her in a bikini, huh?
Yeah, you just loyally purchase every issue that comes out that she's half naked in, huh? And I would take the hairspray and a lighter, and I would just end it all.
But the hair's all done, and we get a very cute image of kind of like swishing her hair about a little bit to show off how good it looks now. It's nice. It's all shiny and stuff. And Ymori's mother looks at the two of them, just having a good time together. And she's like, "Are you two actually hitting it off? Oh, he's just like his dad, a late bloomer when it comes to romance. Trying to get involved with him will be torture. I should know." But, she's just gonna be having her own little mom moment of like,
Sure.
good luck, you two. Good luck, you two.
Yeah, especially if her kid never really tells her anything about his social
Yeah,
life. Like, this is a big surprise for her. So I
it's
like
got to be a
this.
treat.
Yeah.
So Kana gets a nice discount. She's like shocked by the discount that she's given, but Yamori's mom just is like, "Hey, if you come by and you ask for me again, I'll give you another good discount." Which if you saw like your kid who had this nice of a bond with someone, I feel like even if there was nothing romantic involved, it would just be like, "Oh, she enriches my son's life so
Yeah,
much. I'm going to just yeah."
I mean, eventually you just do the thing that's just like, oh yeah, you're friends with my kid, and I treasure them having like a friendship with you. So I will, I will do things for your benefit as well. That's just a
Yeah.
sweet thing that like the parents of friends do sometimes.
There's a little moment where Kana checks with Iamori. Is like, "Hey, are you comfortable with me seeing her?" And he says like, "Yeah, if you don't mind coming here." And so yeah, she says that she's gonna end up doing it. She's got a little business card for the amulet
Aw.
salon. She's really encouraged. She's like, I can give this job my all with all these nice things. So she's having a nice deal. But that's not the end of the chapter because we get a cliffhanger for next time. As Yamori's mom pulls him aside and says, like, "Oh, about tomorrow." And we cut to tomorrow, where Iamori is looking after his kid siblings, who look like they're, I guess, like 10 around there.
I
Maybe,
was gonna assume maybe a little younger, like maybe like 8 or 9, but they are definitely they're not like the little kid siblings that I feel like we got
no,
in like We Never Learned. Like these look like maybe like adult elementary school or like old elementary schoolers or something like that.
yeah. His little sister is like,
Maybe even middle schoolers actually.
his kid sister is like playing on her phone and stuff, and it's very, and they're doing stuff like, like all like sigh and that kind of thing. So uh they are discussing like, "Hey, what do you think she's gonna be like? Mom says she's super cute." And uh they're just gonna kind of have their private conversation while Yumori is ignorant of it. And Kana meets them at the train station, and she's got her casual clothes on, still looking super cute. And his kid siblings are like, what but she why does our older brother know someone so pretty?" Like,
Yeah.
and they're gonna go to the amusement park together.
Aw, that's gonna be fun. I think this is gonna be a fun little date chapter.
Yeah, Kana's having a lot to do recently. A lot of chapters featuring her, but I guess that it might be like making up for the fact that she didn't go on the school trip. So it's like we got to make sure that she still, gets a nice balance of the story.
Yeah, we got a decent little couple chapters to focus on Honoka and to Himari, so why not do it to the other girl who arguably might be the most popular of all of them? I recall the series kind of jumping up in popularity around the time that Kana was introduced.
I wonder why. All right, so let's move on.
Ichi the Witch, Nick!
It's chapter 19. 19th Hunt, Magic Circle. Ichi wakes up, and he is in a dense forest with sun shining through the branches. And he thinks he's dead, but then he's like, no, I thought things just vanished when they died. Atheist Ichi. But so he realized, like, am I not dead? But then he just, reflects on, like, not being able to kill the world hater magic, even after stabbing his freaking artery. And he's like, the magic wasn't the prey today. I was. And then he takes a breath and he's like, the air around here is great. The plants look healthy. The soil's rich. It's like the perfect mountain. It's my personal paradise. And he just comes across a clearing where all the magics he's acquired are just hanging out with each other.
Because I was like, I'm kind of bummed we're not really ever going to see the Hajime Sark ever again. Like, we'll see like a version of it or whatever. But the idea that he could potentially go inside himself and see all of the little spirit magics he's acquired over the years, I'm like,
his little Chao garden.
Yes! I was like, yeah, this is perfect.
So the Hisame magic is there with Ororo, and I can't remember the name of the Thunder Fox.
Nuzaki or something like that?
So they're all hanging out having drinks. Like Uroro's got a full on, like, what do you call one of those?
Like a Mai Tai, like just a very tropical fruity drink. It has like a hibiscus flower or something like on the rim.
He's drinking it, having a good time, but also he's really, really annoyed because he's just complaining about how stupid Ichi is, and the other magics are like, yeah, he sure is stupid. And Aurora says, I told him to run away. Did he run? No, he ran at the thing. So they're like, oh yeah, he does suck, but at least I get to hang out with you. Yeah, it's weird. Wait, there he is! Because Ichi just like comes out from behind a bush, just stands in front of them, and they all like make crosses with their hands, like, be gone! Get away! Get out of way! Go away out of here! So, he needs to have this context explained to him, because of course he does, which is that this is a magic circle, Ichi's inner world. Whenever magics are acquired, they go to live inside the witch's inner world. And so in reality, Ichi is unconscious, which means that he is here with them instead. And so Ichi says, oh, so I'm not dead. And Uroro gets this great smug look on his face, which goes, not yet. And he's like, hey, you want to watch? It's hilarious. And they just pull out a magic mirror, but also Uroro has a TV remote.
He's the king. It makes sense.
And so we get to observe the condition of the fight between Descaras and the World Hater Magic. Descaras has some bruises on her. She's looking like she's taken a few hits, but the World Hater Magic's head has been cut off, and he's just holding it. So maybe he's taken a few stronger blows. But the problem is that he just can't be defeated. He just immediately puts his head back on his neck and regenerates. And he says, I acknowledge that you are powerful, but that's not enough to affect me. You should just give up. But at that moment, Togeis comes storming in, and she casts Durandala, one of her ice magics, on him. And she says, what if we add a second prodigy to the question? And then she's like, you know what? Might as well test this out too. And confirms that she has acquired the mushroom magic as she casts it, McIlvain. And then a bunch of mushrooms appear all around the ice cube that she had summoned, and then Descaras blows them up with fire. So the World Hair Magic is got two powerful witches squaring off against him, who do a cool back-to-back pose. And
they're just good friends, Nick.
They're just good friends who intimately know each other enough to make fun of each other relentlessly.
Yes. And they know the curves of each other's bodies.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
There we go. All right. Just as long as we're on the same page.
I don't. So Descaras and Togeis, I do like that. Descaras is like, are you sure you just didn't get lost on the way? And Togeis says, I have never gotten lost ever.
Very adorable.
The confidence of it. Togeis, the only reason that she took this long to get involved is that she was leading the evacuation effort, and it's going smoothly. She says reinforcements are coming, that the World Hater Magic is outnumbered, there's a hole in the barrier that all the people are being escorted out through. And so he's like, all right, fuck this. And he says, yeah, this is meaningless. And a portal opens up behind him, and a giant clawed hand appears for him to stand on and pull him through it. And as he's preparing to leave, Descaras, shouts at him to stop and is like, what are you trying to do? And the World Hair Magic just says, I appear, I warp, I leave. That's all. But as my destruction continues, one day eventually, I'll have destroyed the whole world. That is the sole reason I exist. And he leaves. He's just gone. But before he does so, Ichi can be seen watching, and he, in typical Ichi fashion, has stuck his face to the screen like a little kid, and is blocking the magics from being able to see stuff, which has got Aurora really pissed off. And so from within his own inner world, he says, one day, I swear, I will hunt you. And the World Hater Magic, being the weird entity that he is, clearly seems to notice this and be aware of it.
Yes.
The screen blinks out, and Uroro, goes over to Ichi, kind of like cloaks himself around him, puts his hand on Ichi's head, and he says, "You're going to end up a sacrifice." And Ichi's like, "Well, why?" And Uroro just says, "I'm sick of trying to explain things so your tiny brain understands. When you wake up, ask that insufferable witch. She's got a duty to explain it to you." And so Ichi falls through a portal and falls down a hole, and he can see like the magic's the Hisame magic is like waving goodbye, which is cute, which is really cute. And he's like, "Don't come back." I feel like he's definitely gonna come back to this place. I really hope he does.
Once he's gotten a couple more magics, so the place is a little more filled out.
Yeah, and they've like had some time to build up some infrastructure, have a few houses and stuff. Sure. Ichi wakes up in what is clearly like a hospital bed. He's got some bandages over him, and Komugi is there. She's sleeping at bedside, looking after her friend.
Yeah, which implies that Ichi might have been out for a while. So
well, yeah, considering the way that the Uroro boosting works, yeah.
Yeah, so we shall see how much time has passed and what everything kind of happens as a result. What's the conclusion of the bet? Is it still even on the table? All that sort of stuff. But this is like a super cool chapter, and I love the little moment of Descaros and Togais teaming up and like having this little back-to-back sass moment with each other. It's just very adorable, and
I have never gotten lost ever. Yeah, I really like this chapter. And looking forward to seeing, like, hey, what's the plan going forward? Because we just got the big plot hook, so it'll be nice to see what the thing is going to be for, like, the quest now that hopefully the introductory stuff for Ichi's out of the way, because that's kind of what his first missions were.
Yes. All right, Nick, we have to end the Elfie saga, finally!
Yeah, it's been half the series.
Yeah.
It's Sidcraft, Love is a Mystery. Case 9, The Formless Fan and the Great Detective's Determination. Last time, Flamberry, Sid noticed was missing, and so he rushed back onto the Elfie in order to see if he could save her. And so he was running around, calling out for her, trying to get her to respond. And then the ship starts to tip, and he realizes, it's sinking. The lower decks must be starting to flood. And then there's a joke about how Sid's a pussy, and just don't find this funny. He starts crying.
Yeah.
So he's running around trying to find Flamberry, and we've had one of these moments of like theater thing of like flashback theater, but since Sid's not privy to the actual details, he instead has insightful masterpiece theater of where he just imagines Flamberry happened. So Sid thinks like, okay, so Flamberry was calling for people, and then she called if anyone was left behind, and so she's like, "Oh, I didn't hear a response," which means that maybe someone's in the lower decks, and so I gotta go and check. And so she's like, "I will check for everything, or else I'll be worried." And Sid's like, "I know that this is kind of a disservice to her, but it is possible. So if she's in the lower decks, that could be real trouble." And so yeah, he goes down into the ship, and there's like knee-deep water that he's got to trek through he hears a noise coming from one of the rooms and pushes the door open and sees that Souffle is there, and she's tied up with a bomb, and there is a gramophone sitting next to her. So Flamberry tries to warn him to stay away, but he immediately, of course, starts working on the lock, ungags her. And he realizes, like, okay, the lock here is different. It's some sort of combination lock that's got a letter and 4 numerals after it. And I've got to solve the combination. But as he starts working on that, a voice comes from the record player. Gasp! And says, "I knew that you would come, Sid Craft." And Sid says, "Wait, who are you? Me? I'm someone who knows everything about you, Sid, as well as Inspector Souffle Flambery. I am Zero Craft. For a long time now, I've been a fan of yours. Sid says he can't recognize the voice. It's too muffled to tell anything about them in any way that could identify them. But he says aloud, it's like, don't tell me you masterminded this. A brilliant deduction, Sid Craft! The two bombers were actually people in love. The one who dangled the lives of their families and significant others in front of them to have them blow up the ship was none other than me! The power of love is a wonderful thing, don't you think? Makes one man... I can't remember the fucking lyrics, never mind.
You tried, though, and that's the important thing.
Make another man sing. Anyway, so... the recording, however, says, it's pointless to try and catch me. This is just a recording. One that perfectly predicts what Sid's going to say to it, which is amusing. Yeah, so. But when Sid asks why Zero Craft is doing this, Zero Craft answers, the love letter I sent you holds the answer. I'm glad that you made it safely, Sid. I love you. This is all for the sake of love. I'm going to keep sending cases like this to you. Now, let's play a game of love. Let me see your love. And a huge burst of water comes through the door as the flooding picks up speed. And Sid's top priority is to clarify, wait a minute, no, Souffle and I are not in that kind of relationship. As the water starts storming in, the record player is like almost completely submerged, but a voice is still coming out of it, which is hilarious to me. And so Sid keeps on working on the lock. Eventually, Flambery gets a look on her face and she says, hey, Sid Craft, just go. You can make it out by yourself. Keep on living and catch a ton of bad guys for me. And Sid's just like, can you just please stop talking? I'm trying to...
He's like, hey, could you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to solve a puzzle.
And Sid says, look, I don't really like myself. I'm like really aware of the way everyone's watching me, and I can't be true to what I like. That's the type of guy I am. And that's why, despite all that, if I were to abandon the people who do stay by my side, then I would hate myself. And
very powerful sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, it's nice to have like Sid show that to someone when the joke so far has just been, oh, everyone just thinks he's super cool and perfect, and he doesn't like reveal that like he's got all these tremendous insecurities and these hang-ups about romance and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The water is gone to the point where like Flambery is almost up to her neck, and so Sid has to go down into the water in order to keep on working on the lock. And so he thinks like, okay, there's got to be a hint. There's got to be a hint in the love letter. And there was an additional hint, which was watch your feet and try your best. And so he thinks back to the letter, specifically the footer of the letter, which said September 26, 1800. And he realized, like, wait a minute, I've got it. And then he starts to run out of air. And so he's like, shit, there's no time, I need air. And Flambery, without hesitating, leans in, kisses Sid, and gives him some more air. And she starts mouthing, like, use that air to live as long as you can. No matter what the reason, I won't let you die in front of me.
That's a fucking beautiful little line. I don't know why that one did get me, where I was like, oh, they're my OTP right now. I'm sorry to the other girls. You just didn't have a moment as cute as that. You gotta get one.
I mean, Flambery and Sid have definitely had the most, like, synergy in the series thus far, but she has also had the most chances to have moments like this with Sid. So Sid realizes that the date, September 26, wasn't just a date. It's also 9 out of 26, as in 9th letter of 26 letter alphabet, which would be I. And then if you put in 1800, I-1800 is the combination on the lock. So he undoes it. Flambery is, like falling unconscious because, she gave the last of her air to Sid. So he grabs her, swims them up onto the deck. But, I mean, he's completely spent at this point. Understandable. And so they're on the deck, but the ship's still sinking, and a bomb's gonna go off too. So he's dead to rights. But then, my God, it's Luna. She is here to save the day. Just grabs the both of them under her arms. Here we go. And so she thinks to herself, there's one weak point, as she carries Sid and Flamberry to safety.
Yeah.
The bomb goes off. Everyone's safe. They're in the lifeboat again. And Elio is crying in relief as, Flamberry and Sid are just lying on the deck of the boat, covered up in a blanket. So Elio gets the whole story off screen, and it's like, oh, Zero Craft, the same person who goaded Scissorleg into committing those crimes. And she gets really, really upset about this. Flamberry also says, and for the sake of the police's pride, I swear I'll catch him. But Sid says, I'm going to catch Zero Craft. I'm going to keep sending cases like this to you, is what they said. If that's true, they're going to keep on inciting cases. Looks all determined. And then he thinks to himself, unless I catch them, I won't have my chance at love and romance. Damn you, Zero Craft. Yeah, right. Priorities, sure.
Oh, that was a funny little joke.
Disagree. But so he thinks about that, and he's like, yeah, my chance at romance. And then he thinks about the fact that, Flamberry did just straight up go mouth to mouth with him. And he thinks, no, just emergency CPR. No, I will not disrespect Inspector Flamberry's valiant efforts by considering it to be a romantic gesture. And she goes over to him and is like, hey, by the way, sorry about that whole thing. It was, I know, it was just like a spur of the moment idea. Sorry if it was awkward for you.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very nice of her. It was like, hey, now that we're not in a life-threatening situation, sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's nice. But then to cap things off, she goes, also, I don't care how you think about yourself. You're my husband, so have more confidence. She hasn't stopped playing the character.
She's always been the character. She's like method. She's fantastic. She's never dropped character. Even when the ship was sinking, she was like, this is my husband. I won't watch my husband die.
Absolutely. How much of that was her just being in character? But you know what? That's a preview of how she would be with her husband, and that's great.
So. I was going to say, there wasn't a lot of direction for that character beyond you two are married. So, yeah, I mean...
This is just her instinct for, this is how I will treat the person that I love. Absolutely. Yeah. What a catch she would be.
Very sweet. I think it's interesting what they're doing with Zero Craft. I do like the idea of, we got to get, a Moriarty and, what does the evil detective do? Well, they send cases at the good detective that they have to solve. Fair enough. Yes. That's just a clean, easy way to do this. But I do think this is a fun little twist. I like it. There's a lot of love gimmick to it of just no, I love you, Sid Craft, and I need you to prove your love and all that. Makes me think if this series goes on long enough, Zero Craft will just be another member of this harem at some point. It's just going to turn up to be a cute girl or something.
Right, they'll be like the Muskar from Mago-chan of this series, being quote-unquote evil, but not really. I have to ask the question, is there something in the water at Shonen Jump? Literally in the water, Quinn. This is the third time in 2 months we have had the main character of a series be kissed to provide them with air by a woman.
Okay, yeah, I mean, what about it, Nick? Sometimes...
Just weird parallel thinking is all I'm saying.
Well, it was parallel thinking for New Sexorcist and the other series that did it at the same time, Astro Royale, because they did theirs in the same week. This is a couple weeks later, so Sid Craft, I'm sorry to say this, Nick, is a plagiarist.
Gasp. We are off the most romantic series in all of Jump right now.
Absolutely, New Sexorcist. So
I'm glad that neither of us even gave, I think, credit to it being Astro Royale.
I was like, it's the funnier joke, but I don't want to say it. But we'll have to see, when the series gets canceled in 2 weeks and has a crying robot at the end. That's when it's learned its lesson about not plagiarizing other manga. But if not, then maybe they got permission, Nick. That's all I can say.
Maybe. Well, let's move on from there to Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi, Chapter 29, June 6th, 2 a.m. It's a preamble to the Black Parade going on, and Kyoshi spends the first part of the chapter catching up with his friends and associates at school. Saotome, that one girl that he went to like bowling with, is like, I'm glad you're better. That's just kind of it. But there's also like the friends that are from oh gosh, Jackdo and Nehan from Nehan's friend group. They're also like, yeah, you doing okay? And Kyoshi's just like really touched that everyone like was worried about him while he was gone doing training, while thinking he was just in the hospital. It's nice.
Very nice.
There is a sports festival that's coming up on June 13th, a week after June 6th, that they're kind of like looking forward to, but Kyoshi knows that, of course, there's something in the way. Get a flashback to Sakaki talking to everyone about how, like, hey, Black Parade is happening on June 6th. That slip of paper he got from the old man before said 6-6 brutal, which is like, oh man, June 6th, shit's gonna go down, basically. We recap the visit of Kurogane very briefly, and also the fact that nobody really knows everything that she said to Kiyoshi, because she said it while they were all unconscious, except for him. Nehan says that little kids and animals can see demons, which means there's going to be a lot of panic in the city. But Sakaki says, well, the cold hold of the demons come through is going to be open between 2 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. So all the kids should be asleep. And also, I've taken steps. So Nehan asks, like, well, what are we got to be doing in the week up to this point? And Sakaki just says, like, just live it like normal. There's no point in doing any last minute preparation. And Kiyoshi agrees, like, and also we'll live our daily lives like they matter. That's just the way we do things. So Kiyoshi in the present, pulls out his big to-do list, and he looks at how he wanted to have a chance to enjoy a sports festival with his classmates. Looks between all of his non-power classmates, and he just promises himself, I'm going to protect everyone. It's nice.
Yeah.
There's one more person who wants to catch up with Kiyoshi, which is Oka, the head of the occult club, who led her group in the ritual to summon the frickin' Demon King. And she says, I'm glad that you're okay and everything. She apparently visited him in the hospital. She says that, the Pitch Black Fallen Angels account was closed and stuff. And so she knows stuff that happened. And there's kind of a weird moment where she, like, spends the first half of the conversation, the first part of the conversation being like, you are in good spirits. Then she looks guilty. And then she tries to be confident again. And then she looks even more guilty. She's just very pendulum back and forth. And I could probably appreciate this more if it took more time to play out, but it happens very quickly. So she seems to kind of be all over the place as a result of that. I understand the idea of it. Would have liked this to take more time than 3 pages for them to have this conversation. The important thing is she feels guilty, especially because Kiyoshi got fucked up because, what she was partly responsible for. And he says, look, it's not your fault. Leave the rest to me. It's nighttime on June 5th, which means that the June 6th 2 a.m. attacks are about to happen. There's a drunk guy out and about, sees Kurogane, tries to hit on her. The rest of her squad, which is the Iron-Blooded Knights Sanguis, are all with her, and they get a big, like, we're heading off to battle walking scene. Apparently Yoko Ono's with that group.
Mm-hmm. I forgot that's his character's actual name.
Yep, I can't forget it. Like, I just can't. Sosuke and the Knights of Light Concordia are walking as well, and a random cop is like, hey, you guys, like, there's a curfew, like, you gotta go home. And Sosuke just says to him, hey, good work doing your job, it's time for us to do ours. And he heads off with his group, and they all look like they're gonna drop an album together, basically.
Yeah, well, canonically what's happening right now, right?
Canonically?
Over those speakers. I mean, yeah. I mean, come on. We are currently hearing in persistent. Exactly. We're hearing just the start of it before it fucking loses its shit. Just repeat it over and over.
Never gets to the drop, so it's just like, come on!
It's like, I get it. You were a young boy, but what happened after you saw the parade?
Gets closer and closer to it, so we catch up with the Gates of Hell restaurant as they're watching the news and seeing, like, everyone saying, like, hey, everyone needs to stay inside. And so there's a little moment between Nehana and Akari where they're like, does Mr. Sakaki have, like, does he control the media? So there's that. Sakaki just kind of, like, explains, like, look, 2 a.m. to daybreak is 2.5 hours. If we can just hold our ground for that long, we'll win. So we're going to finalize our positions here. He says, Nahon and Jack Joe, thanks for all your prep work. Go home. We'll handle the rest from here. Tells Akari to meet up with the rear unit of the Iron-Blooded Knights and help keep the civilians safe, and that he and Kiyoshi will be on the front lines, exorcising every demon that they can. And Kiyoshi once again vows, I will protect it all. Hits 2 a.m., massive roar goes out, because, of course, the demons are going to start appearing. Oko wakes up in the middle of the night, and is like, what was that? And she realizes something bad is happening and clasps her hands together and starts to pray, please, Harai, protect everyone.
Whoa! Okay, Nick, so what do we think is going to happen? Because this is very quick.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything because I don't know for sure. It sort of felt like this was happening with Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi, like a few months ago too. So maybe it's just another one of those kind of in-between stages of like, all right, I got to be prepared for this to be the ending if it has to be. Yeah. And maybe it was just planned this way from a little while ago. But we'll see. I know that, Kiyoshi has not been doing great recently. This could be kind of the lead up to maybe like we get like 3 more months or something. I don't think it'll end soon, soon. But it seems like, okay, we had to hit the gas and get going, certainly.
Exactly. All right. We technically have 2 chapters of marriage toxin to go over, because we didn't finish the last chapter that came out. But I believe that chapter can be relatively simply defined as they succeeded at the cooking competition, and we get teased,
pretty much.
We get teased to the new leader of the Iron Clan.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and now it's chapter 115.
Yes, and that is going to open with what's her name? Chinatsu. That's right there. It's the first words on it. She's waking up, Nick. That's why we got all those little reminders about who she is and who the Wind Clan are, because...
Yes.
I don't know, you gotta remember this stuff.
Well, yeah, she hadn't been around for a while, so it's nice to have that extra material to just kind of like prep you. It's like, hey, remember this character? It's like, oh, thank you. Yes, now that she has shown up, yes, I do remember her. So, great. Yeah, so she's there with Erina and her 6 friends, Quinn.
Her 6 Oh, because she's so ripped. I forgot. Like, holy shit. Like, she's putting
her
on
6 friends. Ab 1, Ab 2, Ab 3, Ab 4, Ab 5, and Ab 6.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the Ab family. I love them. Chinatsu's super cool, and I want her to crush my skull in, like, a platonic way.
Oh, okay. I feel like the default is a platonic way, Quinn. I don't know.
Well, Nick, I have some news about you about the medieval ages. They were real horny back then when they were slamming people's heads in with maces. They were just like, yeah, did you like that? You saucy little minx. And then their body fell to the ground. They're like, ugh, I'm never going to get off like this. And
anyway, that's the best sex I'm ever going to have for the rest of my life.
Oh, no. But it all worked out. Eventually, Da Vinci would go on to make the helicopter thing or whatever he did. I was thinking this is Da Vinci because he's also somebody who's kind of old. So you'd been around during medieval fights, right?
No.
Wait, was Da Vinci not around for like knights and shit?
The Renaissance specifically came well after the ages, Quinn.
All right.
The Renaissance was a thing because it happened after the plagues and crusades.
Okay, so what you're saying is that he didn't, like, maybe he wasn't a knight, but he knew knights.
No!
Okay, then I guess I just don't get it.
Okay. Please continue.
Wait, am I recapping this series?
I thought this was one of yours.
I thought that I was Don to Don, but maybe not. Anyways,
You're
Chinatsu.
probably right. I think I'm just confused.
No, you're good. I mean, I'll recap it for you. I'll give you a little bit of time to take a little break on your old throat. Chinatsu is getting ready. She is a protector. She is explaining what she's doing. And Erina is just there kind of making breakfast for them. And Chinatsu is staring at the photo of her and Garo, where she's like a little nervous, but she's just kind of looking at Garo. And Erina peeks in and is like, you're looking at the photo again?
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, no, no, I felt like looking at his face. It's very.
You gazing at his face? No, I just felt like looking at his face.
Yeah,
That's
completely platonic, thing you would do essentially. So Erina is like, all right, well, you got to eat up because today you're working as a protector, right? And this is where one of the wind wheel users, Mitsuba Kanawa, shows up.
Very good of her to say her name because I was not going to remember it.
Yeah, I was prepared mentally to call this character wind wheel user until I turned the page and she introduced herself. So that's good for her. Chinatsu kind of thinks to herself how, she's going away for a while, so she leaves Erina in the hands of the Windwheeled clan, and she just has a moment of like, being a protector, I have to risk my life, so if something were to happen. And she doesn't finish that thought because Erina looks kind of like sullen and then like runs up and hugs Chinatsu and she says, hey, you go get him, world's #1 coolest protector.
It's cute.
Very adorable. And Chinatsu just says, gotcha. And they basically leave on the note of Erina saying like, oh, hey, and if your client happens to be a good looking dude, be sure to get the contact info. So
I'm glad that she's like, she really likes obviously Garo, but she's not just like, oh, it's gotta be him.
Yeah.
No, she just wants her big sister / surrogate mom to be happy, and she's like, and a guy will make you happy.
So Chinatsu shows up to the place she's supposed to meet the client, and she is nervous, thinking about, like, what if he is a cute-looking guy? It is not. It is a rather stout older woman who says, my name's Nabe. Pleasure to meet you. You can call me Nabe-cha. No need to be shy. And she then falls asleep.
Yep, right away.
A car starts driving at a pretty high speed towards them, and Chinatsu immediately is like, oh my gosh, an assassin already. She pulls out her, keep away tape. She's like, I'm not letting a single person lay a finger on my client. And then the car abruptly stops, screeches to a halt, and hey, Nick, who should be there but Garo and Kinosaki, who's driving the car.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, well, they're here already. And
yes.
it's kind of a weird to, because we had, of course, the big chapter, big arc rather, that had like, oh, hey, Garo Light, because we've got, two of the girls that are, just kind of like the forefront of this. And then it's like, oh, no, wait, right, Garo's the main character.
Yeah.
He will be, in most cases, the most focused upon character.
He will be at the forefront of all this. So he explains that he is going to be working with them. He got a job request directly from the head of the family. And Kinosaki's like, and for some reason, I was also requested. And Abe comes in and says, you must be the bodyguard and you must be the driver. She continues her little spiel about you could just call her Nabe-chan, and then immediately falls asleep again.
Yep.
So there's a moment where Chinatsu's like, oh, so the 3 of us are going to be working together to take this granny to the station. They're like, yeah, okay. This is a big surprise, but Garo's like, I'll look forward to working with you. And she's like, yeah, me too. So Garo looks at the map and says, our destination is about 2 days away from here. And both he and Chinatsu have the same kind of reaction where they realize, oh, I'm going to be stuck 2 days straight with this person?
No, how will I ever be able to do this without my entire face exploding from me blushing around them?
Yeah. It's very adorable. Kinosaki is just laughing because he's like, they're so conscious of one another. This is adorable. Cut over. They are currently on the road. They're driving. Nabe-chan is still asleep. Good for him. And Garou is eating like the daintiest meal. I know this is just a thing you could do, but I just always like this idea of like a little tiny plastic tray with food in it with a spoon that you would eat while you're on a vehicle that's very prone to shifting. But I guess that's why he's an assassin. He's good about this sort of thing.
Yeah, this is one of his like big signature dishes too that he eats a lot of the time.
Oh, that's right. It's his powdered candy thing. Yeah. There's a little moment where Kinosaki's like, "Oh, aren't you glad you got to see Chiratsu again?" And he's like, "I mean, I guess," but even he's like, things are lining up a little too perfectly. Like, this didn't go through Undeed, so this had to have cost a lot. I feel like I know this person from somewhere, but I don't know where. And then we cut over, and there's an emergency as the one of the members of the Iron Clan, I forget this guy's name, Morito, I guess.
Yeah, he was the main guy that was
yes.
like in charge of everything.
Yes. And all of his subordinates are panicking. They're like, "Everyone, stop scurrying about." And he says, "Calm yourselves and have a delicious meal." And they're like, "Morito Dano, how could you eat at a time like this? The former clan Nabe-sama has been abducted." He says, "No need to worry." And we get a shot of a sword going through the ground. We don't know where that is quite yet. But then it is shown that Kirito is already after them. And Nick, I don't know how to describe this other than this boy is surfing on his sword on, like, the concrete ground.
Yeah, it's hard to tell exactly what he's doing. It seems like he's, like, scootering it, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like...
positioned on the sword blade, and then the other he's obviously pressing off with. And then he launches himself into the air.
Yes. I would like to think he's doing like kind of the kick push maneuver for like from skateboarding, but just with a sword instead. And yes, as mentioned, this is the genius swordsman Kirito Arima and an exceptional teenager who forged the new generation as the next Iron Clan leader. And we end the chapter with a 2-page spread of Kirito in the air, his feet, his little toesies ringed around the sword, and he's about to strike with Garou.
Yeah, Garou has noticed that they're under attack, and he's on the roof of the car in order to intercept.
Yeah.
Well, there was some cuteness, and then there's like, all right, here we go. The next weird assassin's here, so there we go.
All right, we'll see what happens. I like the idea of like another young rival to kind of go against Garou.
All right, we're going to do New Sexorcist next, Chapter 83, I Won't Forgive You. So the vice captain guy that Gakuro is fighting, Takarasu Tengu identifies him as being perhaps an impure child, and starts to explain what this means, and then the vice captain guy is just like, don't say that word. And instead, Takarasu Tengu is like, all right, let me mentally communicate this instead.
I'm going to use message, actually.
Yeah. And says, like, all right, so listen. The impure are shunned children who were affected by the Hyo before birth. He is a special case. There is no chance of his energy being exhausted in this fight. So the longer the fight goes on, the greater your disadvantage will be, which means you have to keep the fight short. And Gakuro's like, okay, I won't hold back. The vice captain's like, let me hit you some more, and reaches out with his many hands familiar thing. And so Gakuro starts dodging between them, then uses Xenodark to try and surf around between all the arms and tentacle things and stuff like that. He gets behind the guy again. Hands come out and grab him.
I thought it would work this time. Usually the 12th time's the charm.
So... he's grabbed and held in place, so the guy spins around, goes for the big double axe handle. Gakuro manages to block, quote unquote, but just gets hammered into the ground anyway. Then he gets attacked from the side, manages just barely to deflect it, but gets launched through the air. And Gakuro realizes, like, oh, he's really strong, and his moves are as polished as Vice Captain Rito's. Bunch of hands grab him. Another punch coming. So Gakuro starts doing a bunch of slashy thingies to, like, launch attacks and stuff. Karasu Tengu's like, hey, this is no time for excessive exertion. Don't backseat fight. You don't know. He's getting punched in the face. He just got punched in the face. Hua-cha! And, but the Vice Captain realized, like, oh, I barely felt that. And Karasutenga is like, oh, did he leap backward to soften the blow? Are his movements improving? He still doesn't appear calm, and yet, can it be that you are growing at this very moment in the midst of combat? I mean, that's kind of just his thing. He just does this. Stop being shocked by it. This is all Gakuro can do, is just get better.
Yep. Well, it's a very shonen moment of like, oh, you're getting stronger even in the middle of what you're doing. You're like, yeah, I mean, that's usually when you tend to get stronger, when you're doing the thing you get better at. You don't usually get better at drawing when you're eating a sandwich. That'd be fucking weird.
Kabane launches another attack as Gakuro tries to close the distance, but he dodges to the side, and he remembers how Kabane talked trash to Fujino. He gets really pissed off, sweeps his sword to make the arms sent after him kind of scatter around him, and they circle around behind him. Gakuro has planned all this, you see. He jumps up, and all the hands go and get tangled up with each other, and then he just cuts through them. Hey, bunch of hands just got cut, guys. Let's just put that on the count there. It's just it's four in one go. There you go. Yeah, so he cut the Shikigami's hands. The Shikigami goes, go! And Kabane refers to Gakuro as an irritating little bastard. More hands! Oh man, it's like all the hands that you took out, there was no consequence to them being cut. Wow. Gakuro charges towards the hands and just kind of just slips through them, just like a running back. So Kabane's like, don't you mock me? More hands. Grab him. And Gakuro just wrenches his arms and rips the hands out of their roots. And now he's right in front of Kabane, who goes, what the hell are you? And Gakuro says, I won't forgive you for calling my friend a cheap mass-produced product! And slashes his sword, and he hits Kabane so hard that even though he blocks it with his gauntlets, he's knocked into the ground. That's the chapter.
I love this series so much in that it's so dumb. I had to explain to a friend recently that I was reading this series, and I had to explain to him, I was like, so there's basically like just another Bleach again. Like they just did another one. It's the same thing. It's the same kind of stuff, except the protagonist is a suck shit loser, and everyone comments about how much of a lame loser he is. And that's really the most discernible difference, besides that it's kind of a harem series now. Again, with a supreme loser protagonist.
Ugh.
I kind of enjoy it, though. Good stuff. New Sexorcist. Not good, though. Akane Banashi, Nick.
Yeah, story 143. Very scary. Akane is doing the story about scary manju on stage in Paris, France, where Kashiwa has just found her. And he thinks to himself, like, it really is her. It is Akane Arakawa. I thought that she had quit Rakugo. And when he sees that it's her on stage, he goes like, yes, it's her. But he thinks to himself, like, but this story, like the freaking haunted manju, we're in Paris. Barely anyone here has ever seen manju buns, and how would they even have any experience with Rakugo for that matter? But as Akane goes through the story, she gets to the point where like manju is brought to the guy pretending to be afraid of manju, and when it's presented to her, she gets a freaked out expression on her face. It's like, oh, they knew I was scared of manju. Oh, so scary. How dare they prank me by bringing me these manju buns? And we zoom in on one woman in the audience who is watching, and she's just got kind of a neutral expression on her face. But as Akane reaches down and mimes picking up the manju bun, this ghostly image of it appears between Akane's fingers, and as she separates it, the woman can actually see it appearing. And as she describes it, she's like, "Oh, it's so scary! So scary! So scary!" Just starts stuffing her face with imaginary manju buns, where they're so delicious and stuff, and she's acting like she's terrified. And the woman is reacting to all this at every single little development and starts laughing over how ridiculous it is. And of course, one of the other people in the story is like, "If you're so scared of manju, why are you eating them?" and Kashio realized like she is surpassing national and cultural boundaries and making this audience understand. That's how refined her sense of expression is. And so he's like, yeah, I guess I was like being silly thinking that the audience wouldn't appreciate it. But she also notices she's not, using a lot of words or gestures, and yet it's just really, really engrossing. And he realizes that it reminds him of Shigema. He sees the image of Shigema behind Akane. And we go into the world where Akane is telling this story, and the figures in it look like a little bit different from before, like kind of like better realized maybe. And there's just a really, really funny moment of, Akane like stuffing her face while she's also shoving more into the sleeves of her kimono. Just it's very, very funny. And then she concludes the story by saying like, hey, right now I'd be most afraid of a hot cup of tea to wash it all down with. Good fun finale. Kashia's like, man, she's so good and she's evolving too. He wonders if Paris is just part of Akane's training, if it's a test from Isho. But he's like, all right, journalism time. So he's gonna go and try and get her an interviewer. And so he catches Akane outside afterward, and she says, hey, sorry, I'm not taking any interviews right now. Just immediately spots him, and before he can say anything, says that. And she's like, oh, was I mistaken about what you wanted to do? And he says, oh, no, I was just expecting it would, like, play out differently, where, he's like, he imagines the scene of her being like, why were you in Paris? He's like, aha, where Raku goes, I follow. He had a pun planned, and everything went. This man's a pro.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is a professional. He doesn't come ill-equipped, yeah.
But Akane says, oh, I actually saw you come in. It was around that part where I said top of the food chain, I saw you come in. So I was like, oh, yeah, he's here. And Kashio like looks at her and just how like serene and confident she is. And Kashio says, very scary.
She looks a little older now too, Nick. 3 years have passed.
So Akane is like being called away by someone, and so she says, hey, I gotta go. I'll see you soon. And Kashio's like, hey, wait, when are you coming back to Japan? You're not going to stay in France forever, right? You can't, because it'd be such a waste. You'd have all this unrecognized talent. And I'm not just talking as a journalist here. I'm talking as a Rakugo fan. We need you in Japan. And Akane says, I've already answered those questions. Just turns and leaves. And she says, I said, see you soon. And we cut back to Japan, to Yasakate, where a poster is being put up where among the participants is Akane in an alternating show. And
we don't know any of the other people on that roster, though, correct?
There is, I believe that this was discussed on the Discord. I think that the guy that she showed up during her Zenza training is one of the other alternating people.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The guy with the braid?
Yeah. Okay. No, not the guy with the braid. The guy that she told the story that was like all about making puns, and she just used it to diss on him.
Oh, the T guy.
Like, yeah, and some of the others were like, you can't do that, and they were really they didn't approve of it.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I like that. Should be an interesting. I'll be curious to see what it's like when she goes back to Japan and everything that happens there. There's a lot to, I feel like, catch up on. So
yeah, I mean, like, Akane's been away for 3 years, and we don't know a whole lot about why she's there. And we know the most about her than like almost anyone else in this series.
Yeah, you're like, is Shigema still alive? What happened with that cancer thing?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He shook it off. He's fine.
Yeah, he took a phoenix down. Nick, let's wrap up One Piece with chapter 1137, introducing Shamrock. Cover page didn't actually advance anything, so we're not going to talk about that. They literally just put their heads in a window. So we are outside of Alrest Castle in Elbath as Rodo is starting to explain, like, yes, it's been This castle has been here 14 years since King Harold's death. No one has ever approached it, or so I thought, but clearly someone has broken through the door and there are no guards standing watch. But Zoro is very quick to be like, intruders? These doors were broken from the inside. And Luffy's just like, let's just get inside and figure this out.
Doesn't care.
Yeah. So he runs inside. We do get a couple little character moments with Roto. There's a moment where they're like, oh, hey, where are the keys? And he's like, I would never know. I'm a common man, and all that sort of stuff. And he's talking about how the damage that was done here over time. And he's like, oh, no, it can't all be from the intruders. King Harold passed after a vicious battle with Loki, and what you're seeing are the scars of that fight. And Zoro's quick to be like, those are some serious scars. And, Roto's like, well, Loki is a monster for sure, but King Harold was also known as a great warrior on his own. So a lot of big things there. They see a room of skeletons, basically, like a bunch of fallen soldiers. It's a giant graveyard. And Luffy is literally able to, hang out in a sword and a skull because these bodies are so big. But notably,
the helmet didn't save that guy's life.
No, just King Ja Rule, or Lord Ja Rule. So we notice that some of the skulls have horns among them as well. And Luffy, is kind of noting this, oh, is it like oars? And Roto's like, well, the largest bones belong to the warriors with the blood of ancient giants. There are no longer any pure bloods, but some still have traces in their history. In fact, King Harold himself was very large and mighty. Just look up. He points to, a very prominent little portrait, and we see what King Harold looked like. He had kind of the Eggman mustache, but with a big beard underneath it, but notably a lot of scars on the head. They note that this is a man who loved peace and wanted to bridge the gap between Elbaf and the rest of the world. The greatest king, you could say, looks like a great, nice guy. The scars are where he ripped out his horns, Nick.
Yeah, to demonstrate, his dedication to peace. And there's a whole lot of stuff that he's saying here that's like, citation needed.
Yeah. They kind of note that Roto was like, yeah, His Majesty's death was a shock to all, but it was hardest upon the other son, Haruden, who had the most cause to hate Loki for his actions. So everyone's like, wait, Haruden and Loki are brothers? And Roto's like, yeah, but from different mothers. Haruden was born to another woman prior to King Harold's marriage to the queen, and Elbaf does not allow Haruden's mother to be queen. Nami asks why, and Roto explains she was from a different giant nation, and Zoro, never beating the racist allegation, says, what does it matter? They're all giants. I know that's not what he means. It's just, come on, man. I need you to help me help you. Roto explains, he's like, look, even though we're all giants, do you humans not wage war over land and resources as well? And I like Zoro's like, oh yeah, I guess there is suffering inherently in this world.
It's like this one comment makes Zoro kind of take a look at his life, and just very long, quiet montage of him just kind of looking at things like, oh. Next time he shows up, he just kind of holds his fist up occasionally.
He's like, I actually don't think fighting's the way to do things, guys. Zoro asks the question, if Haruden's blood is tarnished, then why do you ride with this crew, Roto? We get a very 3-panel long flashback to Roto as a kid being beaten up by bullies, Haruden finding him and looking at his map and being like, wow, this is amazing, you should be my friend. It's very Luffy-esque of him. And
Roto looked way better as a kid with that scarf around his lower face.
Yes.
He's so much cuter.
Haruden Roto is basically like, unlike me, Haruden is this extraordinarily exemplary man. Despite being unable to live in the castle with his father and seeing the way his mother was treated, he withstood all that pain and said, I want to unify giant kind. And we see a glimpse of Haruden cheering and saying, I'm going to be the king of the giants. It's very this is the giants version of Luffy, basically.
Yeah.
And Roto...
Like him, everyone.
Yes. And Roto says, I want to help his dreams come true. And Zoro's actually a little disappointed by this. He's like, oh, you're actually reasonable and likable now. Gross.
You're not just a gross pervert one-off character?
Yeah.
Fuck. All right, fine.
Luffy calls to them to say, hey guys, come to check this out. Some giants are knocked out over here. But before we can go back to that, we cut over to the underworld where Loki is saying, I told you already, I can't move. And Not Shanks says, doesn't change our question. And Gunko is getting real tall. She is using her arrows to create long boots for herself, basically.
Nobody say anything.
Nobody say anything, and she says, a member of the common rabble receiving a chance to join the ranks of the gods is a miracle one can only dream of, and we are offering you that miracle now. And she stomps her foot on the ground, and two arrows come out. One going horizontally across Loki's face, and then one to the side going vertically up. And he's immediately like, so your foot's going to accelerate to kick my right cheek, and then once I've turned the other way, you're going to give me an uppercut with that fist of yours? He's like, thanks for letting me know ahead of time. But Gunko explains, these arrows are confirmed my path for the future. It's a declaration of unavoidable violence. But it is possible for me to change course. So I ask you again, will you join the Holy Knights? And Loki says, hell no, and it exactly comes to pass. She kicks him across the face, and then when she's turned, spins, gives him a big uppercut. I do not know how to explain exactly how this woman's powers work. Just know that she stomps on the ground, and sometimes arrows come out and can, I guess, direct things. Loki ain't doing so great, but unfortunately, neither are the animals of this place that all have kind of like an arrow like embedded in them. So they're all kind of like dying, I guess, or at least extremely hurt. And Loki is just wheezing. He's screaming, you'll regret this. Gunko sends a whole bunch of arrows at him, and he's like, no, stop. So she's like, then you'll join? And he goes, meh. And one further attack later, Not Shanks says, that's enough, Gunko. Or should I say, Figureland Shamrock says that, Nick, it's not Shanks. It's just someone who looks exactly like him, but without the scar. Interesting.
Yeah. Gorgeous hair, too.
Oh, yeah. Luscious, man. He says, let's change tactics. I'm sick of all these useless people. I'd hope we could have settled this much more cleanly. But Gunko notes that, yeah, it seems that he would rather die than join us. Is this some kind of religious thing? Shamrock ends the chapter, though, by saying the vicious warriors of Elbath who conquered the New World long, long ago will be brought under the command of the world government once and for all.
Hey, Shanks, do you want to tell us anything about yourself? Maybe?
There's the possibility Shanks doesn't know about this. Remember, Shanks was found in a treasure chest. This might be his twin separated at birth or something along those lines. We don't quite know the circumstances of Shanks' knowledge of where his history is from.
I do really like this two-man unit that we've got going on, operating on Elbath right now, though. They're very, very intimidating, and with quite memorable designs. Obviously, despite the fact that Shamrock's, looks just like Shanks, I don't think we've ever seen anyone, at least in a long time in One Piece, who dresses the way that he does.
No, this is definitely going into aristocrat kind of territory and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, there's definitely something along those lines going on here.
Yeah,
I think this is supposed to be a group with more members too. So I wouldn't even be shocked if this little Elbath arc has them dealing with multiple members of the Holy Knights at some point.
It's also very important to note that Shamrock is the son of one of the five elders. So very deep connections there.
Yes, he is the son of the new member of the Five Elders, St. Garling.
So, and also we're still continuing to build at this thing that's yay, everyone's thinks that Loki's really awful because, hey, what great guy the king was. What a great guy the king was. And then as the more that we see Loki operate, the more admirable he becomes. He's whining and complaining about stuff, but he's still refusing to give in, even when it looks like he's just going to be beaten to death as he does so.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see what they end up doing with all of that. I think I also forgot to note that I think Figureland was the commander of the Holy Knights, so it looks like his son has taken on that position now, but right. I might be mistaken on that, so maybe don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But King
All right.
Harold, oh, thank you. Don't use me in your bibliography, is what I'm saying. King Harold, though, yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel like we are going to be due for a flashback that's going to twist that story on its head.
Yeah. It seems a bit telegraphed, but sometimes that's okay.
Yes. All right. Well, that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap this week. We had so many series to talk about. We had a lot of fun. But Nick, what were the favorites of this week?
Yeah, that's tricky. We had some very nice series. I think that my favorite chapter, oh, I think that I'm gonna go with Himaten. It
Okay.
was just a cute, little chapter that had some nice interactions, but it was fun all the way through. It was nice to see, a new character introduced into the mix for a little bit, in order to kind of like shake things up. And I like that, it brought the dynamic of Kana and Iamori seeing, different sides of each other. It's nice to see that, and it's also like it's realistic, but also very cute reactions that they have in a lot of these situations.
Yes. Nick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's your MVP?
My MVP is gonna be Yoru because she's an agent of chaos, and
Oh,
was very,
okay.
very amusing.
Wait, does this break? I'd have to actually go into last year's to check, but I think this is the first time you haven't picked Ichi the Witch in like. I think you maybe done that twice since the series' existence.
Yeah,
All right.
I liked Ichi this week, but it was not among my favorites. It was, the
Wow.
action. It
Okay.
was the action winding down. If there had been more of the stuff where Descrest and Togeis got teamed up on the World Hater Magic, then maybe. But it was very much like a look. We need to show like a little bit of this, but you've missed all the action where all the really cool stuff happened. So it wasn't like top of my list this week.
Fair. I will say that I think actually it still was for me this week. Ichi the Witch I think was the most fun I had in a full chapter, and I'm gonna give character of the week then to Iamori's mom. I don't know if she has a name besides that at this
Hmm.
point. But I sincerely liked how that chapter introduced her, how fun she was throughout, and I don't know, I felt very sad for her in a way as I watched it, where I was like, oh, her boy doesn't tell her about the adventures he's having. Like that's so sad. So
He's 15. Of course, he doesn't tell his mom
I
anything.
know. I just have that moment where I'm like, oh, poor Iamori's mom.
It's interesting because like it is just such a very normal 15-year-old thing to do, and I feel like we're used to a lot of shonen jump protagonists that have parents in the picture, just like if they interact with them on any sort of regular basis, they tell them like everything. Like I could see like Yuiga just telling his mom everything,
Yeah.
for
It's
example.
it's also that I'm now reached the point where I can no longer identify myself in the role of our characters. I envision myself as their parents now. So it's also just
Right.
a level of like, oh, but be nice to your mom. She loves you so much.
It's like that moment where you stop identifying with Max in a Goofy movie and start identifying with Goofy. He's like, "You listen to your father, young man."
I refuse to watch the movie again for that exact reason. I'm like, I can't. I've got to be young forever.
That's going to do it, everyone. So thank you all for joining us. We will be back with more weekly manga recap next week here on twitch.tv/RoloT. Hopefully the internet will be more cooperative next time, and maybe you'll see our beautiful faces then.
Yeah. The audience, by the way, picked Undid Unluck as its chapter of the week, which makes sense. Good chapter
Makes
for
sense.
it. And Yoru from Chainsaw Man is the character of the week.
Gotcha. And there is more weekly manga recap available on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com if you want the audio version. It's also on iTunes and Spotify, podcast feed, kind of places like that. Video version is on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap, where normally you can see our faces on there. And you can also see the opening sequence done by Malajack Stillitz and Winslow Cheddar. There are also occasional title cards done by Steve Mann, whose artwork you can check out by just searching for Steve Mann art. You can find it in many different places across the internet. We should be back with the recommendation that we are working on currently, Gamblefish, soon. If you want to recommend another series to us, you can go to the Weekly Manga Recap Google document. That can be found by clicking the Discord link, which will be posted wherever this podcast is. Use that to find it from there. Ninja X3i maintains a lot of the stuff associated with the podcast on there, which we would have long forgotten about if not for having that historical document. You can also ask questions for a future Q&A episode. You can make votes on your favorite series. Also, by the way, follow WMR Votes on
Yes.
Blue Sky and us as well. Rolo T, Nick F Time, and Just Weekly Manga Recap are the accounts you should be looking for.
Yeah, we post good things. I posted a banger skeet about Gambit earlier today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I will have to look at that and keep a tab on what my friends gets up to online. I just complained about a French film that I watched over the weekend because it was one of the best animated nominees.
Aw. Wait, you complained about this, so you didn't like it.
I was liking it until I got to the ending, and then I hated it. So
Oh, I hate that.
happens
I'm
sometimes.
gonna develop the machine from Eternal Sunshine so we could take the ending out of your memory so you can like it again.
And then I'll be like, and then they, huh? Hang on, let me check.
And I slapped the phone out of your hand like, Nick, no!
No!
I have to protect you.
I don't know how to come back from this.
I'm
Goodbye.
sorry. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Bye, everybody. I love you so much. Bye. We're gonna talk about Gamblefish soon. Obama's in it.